I stared at the divorce papers, the ink smudged and blurry, just like the tasteless poison my husband had secretly slipped into my Earl Grey tea. Finally, my heart was completely captured. My husband of 5 years had been murdering me over something that happened years ago. I stopped him from rushing into the collapsing, burning building to save his childhood sweetheart, Charlotte. I saved his life. But he despised me for my crippled, paralyzed legs. As my vision faded, his cold voice whispered, "This is for her." Then my lungs expanded violently. I blinked, the acrid smell of smoke hit me, and the deafening fire alarm of the Bell Ridge Hotel pierced my eardrums. I wasn't dead, I was back. The shrill sirens echoed through the grand ballroom, shattering the elegant melody of the string quartet. Crystal chandeliers trembled above us. Thick, toxic smoke began to curl up from the ventilation ducts. Panic erupted instantly. Women in silk gowns screamed. Seattle's elite scrambled toward the emergency exits, trampling shattered champagne flutes underfoot. I stood frozen, unable to move. Amid the chaos, my emerald velvet gown felt suffocatingly heavy. My heart pounded, not from fear of the fire, but from the unbelievable reality before me. I looked down at my hands, flawless. The frail, skeletal fingers of a dying woman were gone, replaced by the vitality of my 25-year-old self. I lifted my head. Standing beside me was Anthony Moretti. He looked exactly as he had on the night of the Bell Ridge Hotel charity gala, 3 years ago. At that very event, he had watched me choke on my own blood. His jaw was clenched, his custom-tailored tuxedo immaculate, but his deep eyes were suddenly filled with sheer terror. Yet he wasn't looking at me. His gaze was frantically fixed on the hotel's east wing, the wing where the art auction was taking place, the wing where Charlotte Davenport was trapped. In my past life, this moment had sealed my doom. When the explosion shook the east wing, Anthony tried to charge straight into the inferno. I threw myself at him, wrapping my arms around his waist, sobbing and screaming, begging him not to throw his life away. I pointed to the crumbling ceiling, pleading with him to think of me, his newlywed wife. Because of my hysterical interference, a steel beam that would have crushed his skull crashed down just a few feet away from us. I saved him. But when firefighters pulled Charlotte from the wreckage, her spine was permanently damaged. She would never walk again. For the next 3 years, Anthony made my life a living hell. He blamed me for Charlotte's paralysis. He secretly siphoned assets from my family's company, Mitchell Real Estate, into his own offshore accounts. He isolated me from my friends, gaslit my parents into thinking I was unstable, and spent every waking minute with Charlotte, who whispered apologies by my bedside and vowed revenge. Finally, when he had drained everything I had to offer, he poisoned me, claiming it was the only way to balance the scales. "Kalia, move aside." Anthony's voice snapped me out of the horrific reverie. He grabbed my wrist, his fingers digging deep into my skin, the same grip he'd used to force the pen into my hand to sign the divorce papers. "Anthony," I whispered his name, the taste of ashes on my tongue. Suddenly, George Shaw, Anthony's closest friend and eternal accomplice, pushed through the fleeing crowd. His face was pale, smudged with soot. "Anthony, it's Charlotte." She was in the gallery admiring impressionist paintings when the kitchen fire spread. The entire corridor was blocked. She was trapped. I watched as the color completely drained from Arno's face. The raw, unguarded agony in his eyes was something he had once possessed. The East Wing had never shown it to me. Anthony gasped, his voice trembling. He immediately released my wrist, as if touching me burned more than the approaching flames. He took a step toward the billowing black smoke. This was it, the crossroads of my fate. At the very moment I should have knelt and begged him to stay, I took a deep breath of the smoke-filled air and felt a wonderful, burning sense of life. I looked at Anthony, the man I had once loved so deeply that I lost my life, my family, and my dignity. Go find her, I thought, a cold, bitter smile curling at the corner of my lips. Die for her. "Anthony, wait," George shouted, grabbing his friend's shoulder. "The roof is about to collapse. The fire chief just radioed it in. The structural safety of the gallery is compromised. You can't go in." "Let go of me, Greg," Anthony roared, shoving him aside. He turned to look at me, his chest heaving violently. I knew what he was expecting. He was waiting to see me cry. He was waiting for me to play the role of the desperately clinging wife, so that if he failed, he could shift the heavy burden of guilt onto my shoulders. He wanted me to be the villain in his tragic love story. Instead, I calmly took 2 steps back, creating a physical barrier between us. It was necessary. He frowned, confused by my eerie stillness. Without saying a word, I turned and walked away. Then I approached the nearest structural column, where a heavy red industrial fire extinguisher hung. Glass case. I took off my high heels, grabbed the heel, and smashed the glass. The sound of shattering was drowned out by the piercing sirens. But Anthony and George watched me in stunned silence. He pulled out the heavy fire extinguisher, walked back to Anthony, and pressed the cold metal cylinder directly against his chest. Anthony instinctively grabbed it, his eyes filled with confusion. "What are you doing?" Anthony stammered. "Giving you a fighting chance," I asked, my voice steady, cutting through the surrounding chaos. "Anthony, she's in the East Wing. The gallery is right behind the main kitchen door. If you take the maintenance corridor, you might be able to bypass the collapsed ceiling." "Go?" George's jaw dropped. "Korea, are you insane? He'll die. If he doesn't go save her, he'll die inside," I replied coldly, looking straight into Arno's eyes. "Isn't that right, Anthony? You'd never forgive yourself, and you'd never forgive me if I stopped you." In that moment, I saw a flicker of raw fear in Arno's eyes. He hadn't actually thought this through. His heroic impulse was built on a subconscious safety net, that someone, especially me, would physically restrain him, forcing him to be the tragic hero held back from his true love. But I had just cut the net. I handed him the weapon. I pointed him toward the dragon. Anthony choked, unable to speak, the heavy fire extinguisher weighing down his arms. He looked at the raging orange flames in the corridor, the heat wave unbearable. "Don't waste time, Anthony, every second counts," I shouted, mimicking the urgent tone of a supportive wife. Though my eyes were completely empty. "Go save the woman you love." Without waiting for his response, I turned and walked away. My best friend, Jasmine Harper, grabbed my arm as she ran past. "Korea, what on earth are you doing? We need to get out of here." "Jess, I'm right behind you," I said calmly. Jasmine and I merged into the crowd flowing out of the grand hall doors. I glanced back over my shoulder. One last time, Anthony stood frozen, staring at the fire extinguisher in his hands. George was tugging desperately at his coat, pleading with him to leave. Then, with a pained cry, Anthony broke free from George's grasp and charged into the billowing black smoke, heading toward the East Wing. I stepped out onto the cold, damp, rain-soaked streets of Seattle. The icy air hit me like a blessing. I draped Jasmine's jacket over my bare shoulders and watched the flames lick at the night sky. "Karma hurts, Anthony," I whispered into the wind. "Let's see how heroic you really are." The parking lot was a chaotic swirl of red and blue police lights. Fire trucks surrounded the Bell Ridge Hotel, pumping thousands of gallons of water into the crumbling structure. Paramedics rushed back and forth with stretchers, treating guests for smoke inhalation and minor burns. Jasmine handed me a cup of lukewarm coffee from an emergency relief tent. She shook off the soot that had settled in her golden hair. "I can't believe Anthony ran in there. Carlia, he's so brave. God, I hope he's okay." I took a slow sip of the coffee. It tasted amazing. He made his choice. "Jazz, you're still in shock," Jasmine said softly, patting my back. "You're too calm." The trauma, I let her believe it. My eyes remained fixed on the East Wing. In my past life, Anthony had stood right where I was now, shouting at the firefighters for help. Charlotte had clung to my arms so tightly it bruised, muttering, "If she dies, it's your fault." About 30 minutes later, a chilling groan echoed across the plaza. The structural integrity of the East Wing finally gave way. The roof collapsed inward with a deafening roar. A massive column of sparks and ash shot hundreds of feet into the air. Screams erupted from the crowd. I felt a surge of adrenaline. If I had just killed him, altering the timeline was a risk. If Anthony died now, he wouldn't suffer the slow, agonizing torment he had inflicted on me. It was almost unbearable. Death would be too easy for him. "We've got a medic down. We need a medic over here," a firefighter shouted from a side entrance of the hotel. I pushed through the crowd, Jazz following close behind. 2 firefighters in heavy gear were dragging a soot-covered, motionless figure from the wreckage. The left side of his tuxedo was completely burned away. Blood oozed from a massive gash on his forehead and his left leg. His body was twisted at a sickening, unnatural angle. It was Anthony. He was alive, but barely. His chest rose and fell with shallow, rapid breaths. The fire extinguisher I had handed him was gone. Anthony, George cried, breaking through the police barricade. Oh my God, Anthony. I approached the stretcher. As paramedics began cutting away his tattered clothes, Anthony's eyelids fluttered open, his eyes, bloodshot and filled with pain, found my face in the crowd. He reached a trembling, blistered hand toward me. Charlotte, he rasped, coughing up a cloud of black soot. Couldn't reach her. The beam fell. A paramedic quickly placed an oxygen mask over his face. Sir, try not to speak. You have a severe crush injury to your femur and third-degree burns. I leaned in close, playing the part of a horrified wife for the onlookers, but my voice was a deadly whisper only he could hear. You tried your best, darling, that's all that matters. His eyes widened in agony, then rolled back as the pain overwhelmed him into unconsciousness. The ambulance sped away, wailing towards Seattle General. I sat in the back of Jasmine's car, following behind. My phone buzzed incessantly with texts from my parents, frantic for updates. I kept my replies short. Anthony rushed in to save a friend. He's badly hurt. I'm okay. By the time we reached the hospital, the waiting room was a circus, packed with wealthy socialites, reporters, and weeping family members. Hours ticked by, deep into the night. I sat quietly in a corner, mentally mapping my next moves. Mitchell real estate stock would take a hit from the scandal, but I had time to secure assets before Anthony could act. They tried to conspire against me. Around 6 in the morning, the heavy double doors to the surgical wing swung open. It was Dr. Alistair Reed, a renowned trauma surgeon and an old family friend of the Arnotts. He looked exhausted. I rose, adopting the posture of a weary, heartbroken wife. George stood beside me, wringing his hands. Dr. Reed, I said, my voice trembling. How is my husband? Dr. Reed sighed heavily. Kalia, it's a miracle he survived. Severe burns to his left arm and torso, but the main issue, he paused, it's his left leg. A structural beam pinned him. The femur was completely shattered. We've implanted a titanium rod, but the nerve damage is extensive. The road to recovery will be long, and he may walk with a permanent limp. George gasped, covering his face with his hands. And the woman he went in to save? I asked softly. Charlotte Davenport. Was she brought here? Dr. Reed's expression darkened. Yes, she arrived shortly after Anthony. The firefighters found her trapped under another section of the gallery. He hesitated, looking at me with deep pity. Kalia, the firefighters informed us that Anthony's intervention actually complicated the rescue. He rushed into an unstable area. It triggered a secondary collapse. The rescue team had to reroute to extract him first, which delayed reaching Miss Davenport by nearly 20 minutes. My heart hammered. A surge of triumph rose in my chest, but I stifled it, gasping in feigned horror. Oh, no. When they found her, Dr. Reed continued grimly, the damage was done. Debris crushed her lower spine. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I lowered my head. I met the doctor's gaze, letting the perfection of the universe wash over me. Anthony had sacrificed his body, broken his leg, endured horrific burns, all to play the hero, and yet, not only had he failed to save Charlotte, his reckless hero complex was the very reason she was paralyzed. This time, he couldn't blame me. No hysterical wife stood in his way. Only himself, the arrogant fool. The tragic love story he so desperately craved had become a cage of his own making. May I see him? I asked, dabbing at non-existent tears. Dr. Reed nodded gently. He's heavily sedated, but yes, you may go in. I walked down the pristine hallway, the click of my heels echoing like a countdown. I pushed open the door to room 412. Anthony lay motionless in the hospital bed, swathed in white bandages like a mummy, his legs suspended in an elaborate traction device. A heart monitor beeped a steady rhythm. I approached the bedside, and his heavy eyelids slowly opened, as if struggling against the effects of morphine. He looked at me, his gaze distant yet craving approval. He needed me to tell him he had done the right thing. He needed my comfort. I leaned over the bed, my hands gripping the pristine white bed rail. I brought my face close to his ear. Charlotte is paralyzed. Anthony, I whispered calmly, yet his entire body convulsed violently, trying to break free from the restraints. A muffled, agonized cry escaped from the oxygen mask. The heart monitor began beeping erratically, a signal of his sudden realization and panic, and the best part was, my voice remained as smooth as silk. The doctor just told me that if you hadn't rushed in and caused the secondary collapse, the firefighters could have reached her in time. I took a step back, looking down at him with a faint smile and empty eyes. Anthony, all of this is your fault. You ruined her life. The tears that finally fell from Anthony were not those of a hero. They were the tears of a broken man, and my revenge had only just begun. The air was thick with the scent of disinfectant and wilting flowers. It had become the background noise of my life. For the next 3 weeks, I played my role perfectly. In the eyes of the nurses, doctors, and media in Seattle, I was Korea Moretti, the exhausted, devoted wife standing by her heroic husband's bedside. I made sure to be seen sleeping in that uncomfortable vinyl chair beside Anthony's bed. I deliberately smudged my makeup to show silent tears, but when the door clicked shut and Anthony was lost in a drug-induced slumber, my sorrow vanished, replaced by cold, surgical precision. I was running out of time. In my previous life, Anthony had used the chaotic first year of our marriage to quietly extend his reach into the Mitchell real estate empire. He used his charm to win the trust of my aging father, convincing him to sign documents transferring proxy voting rights and access to the family trust. I had to cut him out of my family's wealth before Anthony even realized. The scalpel had been drawn, on a rainy Tuesday, while Anthony was undergoing his second skin graft surgery. I slipped out of the hospital and met Diane Hale, in a secluded, dimly lit booth at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Diane was a ruthless corporate executive, a law firm, sharp, cynical, and loyal only to money. She made the perfect ally. You look remarkably well. For a woman whose husband just played a suicidal game of knight in shining armor, Diane slid a thick manila folder across the mahogany table as she spoke. Grief is exhausting, Diane, I replied, sipping my soda water. I prefer efficiency. A faint smirk tugged at Diane's lips. I reviewed the trust documents and your father's current portfolio. You were right. Anthony's financial advisor drafted a power of attorney 2 weeks before the fire. He planned to present it to your father by the end of the month. A cold fury pierced my chest. But my expression remained impassive. Even in this life, his betrayal had been brewing. Well, as per your instructions, I've set up a blind trust, Diane said, tapping the folder. I've also flagged all joint accounts, requiring dual authorization. Anthony cannot move a single penny of Mitchell money without your notarized signature. Furthermore, your father has agreed to appoint me as his sole legal representative, effective immediately. Anthony has been locked out. Perfect, I murmured, my fingers tracing the rim of the cup. Kalia, I have to ask. Diana leaned forward, his deep eyes narrowing. The Morettis are old money, but their liquidity is a mess. Aroni's father made terrible investments in commercial ventures. Last year's shipment. If Anthony faces years of reconstructive surgery and physical therapy, not to mention the significant drop in income, they'll definitely come to your family, with its deep pockets, for a bailout. Let them come, I said softly, a genuine smile finally touching my lips. They'll only find a locked vault. I'll cover for Aroni. Maintaining decent emergency medical care is the priority. Beyond that, the Morettis are on their own. When I returned to Seattle General, the atmosphere in room 412 was suffocating. Anthony was awake, his gaze fixed dully on the ceiling. His left arm and torso were swathed in thick white bandages. His left leg was elevated, encased in a brutal-looking steel cage external fixator. He looked pale, gaunt, utterly defeated. Kalia, he rasped as I entered, and I immediately slipped into my mask of gentle concern. I'm here, darling, I said, taking his uninjured right hand. Did you see her? He whispered, his voice trembling with a pitiful desperation. He didn't need to say her name. Charlotte, I lied flawlessly. She's been moved out of the ICU, Anthony. She's in a recovery room on the 4th floor. Anthony squeezed my hand, his eyes welling up, his bloodshot eyes filled with tears. In my past life, this was when he'd yell at me, demanding to know why I'd done this to her. Now, his own heavy, suffocating guilt pressed down on him like a blanket. I have to see her, Anthony pleaded, his voice choked. Kalia, please, I need to explain, I need to tell her I tried, I need to apologize. The doctors said you can be transferred to a wheelchair temporarily tomorrow, I said softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from his sweaty forehead. I'll arrange it, you need closure, Anthony, you both do. He let out a ragged sob, pulling my hand to his chest. Thank you, you're so good to me, Kalia. I don't deserve you, no, Anthony, I thought, gazing into his tear-filled eyes. You don't. Tomorrow, you'll find out exactly what you deserve, the anonymous one squeaked. The hospital wheelchair echoed loudly in the sterile corridor of the recovery ward. I pushed him slowly, letting the anticipation build. George walked beside us, wringing his hands nervously. Kalia, are you sure this is a good idea? George whispered, glancing at Aroni. He was pale, sweat beading on his face. He's just had skin grafts. He's not fully stable. He's under immense stress. Greg, he needs to see her, I said, my tone that of a deeply compassionate wife. It's eating him alive. They need to heal together. We stopped outside room 418. The door was slightly ajar. Anthony took a shuddering breath, his good hand gripping. He clutched the armrests of the wheelchair, his knuckles white. He nodded to me. I pushed the door open. Charlotte Davenport was sitting up in the hospital bed, staring blankly out the window. Even in a hospital gown, she was undeniably beautiful. Her long, dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing delicate features that usually radiated an effortless, captivating charm. Today, her face was haggard, her eyes sunken and rimmed with red. She lay under a thin hospital blanket, her legs completely, unnervingly still. Charlotte let out a hoarse groan, a sound like sandpaper tearing from her throat. Charlotte flinched, her head turning toward him. The door, as her gaze landed on Anthony. On his tattered tuxedo, his bound leg, his bandage-wrapped body, a complex storm swept across her face, shock and fear first, then slowly, a deep, seething resentment. Anthony, she whispered, her voice devoid of the warmth he so desperately craved. I pushed him to the bedside. Taking a step, I retreated, clasping my hands in front of me, fading into the background. I was merely an audience to the tragedy Anthony had written. Charlotte, my God, Anthony choked out, leaning forward in his chair. I'm so sorry. I tried, I swear to God, I tried to get to you. The ceiling, the smoke. He waited. He had been waiting for her to reach out to him. He had been waiting for her to say, I know, Anthony, you're my hero. It wasn't your fault. It was this fantasy that had sustained him through the pain. Yet Charlotte, she clutched the sheets, her knuckles white, her eyes fell to his shattered leg, then back to his face. Dr. Reed told me what happened, Charlotte said, her voice unnervingly calm, yet laced with suppressed fury. Anthony froze. What? He told me the fire chief was furious, Charlotte continued, her voice rising, the calm facade beginning to crack. He told me you bypassed the police barricade, ran down an unstable corridor, and a beam fell on you. The rescue team had to turn back. They had to stop searching for me to dig you out of the rubble. Charlotte, no, I was trying to. You put up a barricade for me, Anthony, Charlotte screamed, the sound ricocheting violently off the cold walls. She snatched a plastic cup of water from the bedside table and hurled it at him. The water column hit his chest, the cold splash soaking into his bandages. Anthony recoiled with a pained cry, but Charlotte didn't stop. I was waiting. She finally cried out. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was hiding under the gallery arch. I heard the sirens. I heard them coming, down the hall. Then I heard a crash. And they stopped. They stopped because of you, you stupid, arrogant, selfish bastard. Charlotte, please, Anthony pleaded, his voice a pathetic whimper. I love you. I wanted to save you. You wanted to be a hero. She spat, a trembling finger pointing at her own motionless legs. Now look at me. Look what your hero complex did to me. My legs are numb, Anthony, because you had to play Superman. I'll never walk again. A deafening silence followed. The room held only Charlotte's ragged, hysterical breaths and the steady beep of the heart monitor. Anthony looked as if he'd been shot in the chest. His mouth hung open, his eyes wide and unblinking. He had been immersed in a romantic fantasy, obsessed with that beautiful, tragic love story, star-crossed lovers torn apart by fate, right before his eyes. she shattered into a million irreparable pieces. She loved him, not for his sacrifice. She despised his stupidity. George stepped forward, horrified. Charlotte, that's not fair. He almost died for you. Get him out, Charlotte hissed at George, then turned her furious gaze toward me. Korea, get your husband out of my room before I call security. I took a step forward, wearing an impeccable expression of sorrow and pity. I'm sorry, Charlotte, we'll let you rest. I grabbed the handles of the wheelchair and pulled Anthony back. He didn't resist. He was completely limp, like an empty shell, as I wheeled him into the hallway and let the heavy door click shut behind us. I looked down at the top of his head. He was crying silently, his shoulders trembling with the devastating reality. In my past life, he had poured all that self-loathing, all that venomous emotion onto me. He used my intervention as a shield to protect his ego from harm. The terrible truth that he was powerless, that he couldn't save her, was too much for him to bear. But I had taken away his umbrella. I had left him to face the dragon alone, and the dragon had burned him alive. Karma, it always comes back to bite you, doesn't it, dear? I thought to myself as I wheeled him back to his room. The aftermath of the hospital confrontation was immediate and catastrophic. Anthony sank into a deep, inescapable depression. He stopped speaking to George. He refused to look at me. He spent his days staring blankly out the hospital window, his eyes heavy. He was medicated, but trapped in a prison built entirely of his own catastrophic choices. But the real world didn't stop for his mourning. 2 days later, Anthony's mother, Beatrice Moretti, walked in. She descended upon the hospital suite like an invading general. She was a figure composed entirely of expensive cashmere, flawless pearls, and unquestionable superiority. I was sitting in the corner, calmly replying to emails on my laptop, when she stormed in. Korea, Beatrice snapped, barely glancing at her son, who was asleep after a heavy dose of morphine. We need to talk, now. I slowly closed my laptop and stood up. Hello, Beatrice. Here to comfort your son. I'm here to discuss reality with everyone, she said coldly, waving a manicured hand dismissively. I just spoke with the hospital's billing department. They informed me that Anthony's stay in the VIP suite, along with the fees for the specialized plastic surgeons from Los Angeles, are not covered by his insurance. That's correct, I replied calmly. His insurance only covers standard treatments. Well, the remaining amount is astronomical, Beatrice hissed, narrowing her eyes. Furthermore, I've received a call from Charlotte Davenport's father. They are threatening to sue Anthony for gross negligence. They claim his actions directly led to her paralysis, constituting criminal negligence. The legal fees alone will be immense. The situation is dire. I agreed. My voice held no emotion. Sigh. Don't act so obtuse, Korea, Beatrice snapped, taking a step toward me. Anthony's father is currently liquidating assets to save our shipping company. We don't have the liquidity to handle this. Millions in legal fees and $500,000 in medical bills. You need to contact your father. Have Mitchell Real Estate cover these expenses immediately. It's your responsibility as his wife. I looked at Beatrice Moretti. In my past life, I had been utterly terrified of this woman. I had exhausted myself trying to win her favor. I spent money on expensive gifts for her, only to be mocked behind my back. When Anthony finally killed me, I had no doubt Beatrice helped cover it up. I took a slow, deep breath, inhaled deeply, savoring the immense power I held in this moment. No, I said simply. Beatrice blinked as if she didn't understand English. I'm sorry, what did you say? I said. No, Beatrice, I replied, crossing my arms. Mitchell Real Estate is not a charity for Moretti family mistakes. My father's money is tied up in new developments. I will not authorize a single perfume brand to pay Charlotte Davenport's lawsuit, nor will I fund any brand. Anani's luxury hospital suite can't last much longer. Beatrice's face turned an ugly shade of red. How dare you? He's your husband. He's suffering. He ran into a fire to save people. A woman, I said, my voice low and cold. He's been obsessed with a woman since college. In doing so, he ruined her life and broke his own leg. Why should my family pay for his love tragedy, just because he's a Moretti? She screamed, losing her aristocratic grace. You must obey orders. I'll speak to Anthony about this when he finds out what you've done. He'll do what Beatrice would do. I cut her off, stepping into her personal space. the height difference made her instinctively lean back. Divorce me, let him do as he pleases, but I must make myself clear to you. I reached into my designer handbag and pulled out. He picked up a slim, sleek black folder and slammed it onto Anani's bedside table. The loud thwack startled Beatrice. What is this? This, she demanded. This is a forensic accounting report compiled by my legal team. I lied effortlessly, even though the documents inside proved the existence of blind trust and the lock on Anani's proxy access. The report detailed every attempt over the past 6 months to secretly tap Mitchell real estate funds. Long before this fire, your son was planning to embezzle my family's property. Beatrice stared at the folder, her face instantly pale. She knew Anthony was bankrupt. She knew exactly what he had been doing. If you push me, Beatrice, I continued, threatening softly, if you dare ask me for a single dollar, I'll hand that file over to the board. I'll expose what Anani did, attempted embezzlement, and the Moretti name will be associated with more than just a tragic fire. It will become synonymous with corporate fraud. Beatrice stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a suffocating fish. The arrogant matriarch was completely disarmed. Now, I said, pointing a slender hand toward the door, get out of my husband's room, you're disturbing his rest. She stared at me with pure, undisguised hatred, but she didn't say a word. She grabbed her designer handbag and almost fled the room, the heavy door slamming shut behind her. I turned around. Anthony was awake. He lay in bed staring at me, his chest heaving. The morphine had worn off. His exhaustion was evident, the pain in his leg clearly written on his face. But it was nothing compared to the shock in his eyes. He had heard everything. Kalia, he whispered, his voice trembling with fear and confusion. What was that? What did you just say to my mother? I slowly walked to the bedside and looked down at him. He looked so small, so pitiful, tangled in tubes and wires. I'm protecting our family's assets, Anthony, I said, giving him a sweet, chilling smile. You cut me off, he rasped, struggling to push himself up on his good arm. You excluded me from the Mitchell Trust. Korea, why would I need that money? Charlotte's family is suing me. My mother was right. We don't have the funds to fight them. Then I suppose you'll just have to hire a public defender, I replied calmly. Are you insane? He roared, his face contorted with sudden, desperate rage. I'm your husband. You're supposed to support me. I made a mistake. Fine, I made a mistake trying to save her, but I came back to you. You can't abandon me now. He reached out, his hand frantically grabbing for my arm, trying to gain a physical upper hand. He had always bullied me. In my past life, I would have caved, would have cried and given him everything. He demanded I redeem his love. I easily sidestepped his grasp. His hand closed on empty air, and he slumped back down. He fell back against the pillows, a sharp groan rattling his broken femur. I haven't abandoned you, I whispered, leaning in over the bed rail until my face was almost touching his. My eyes, they were utterly dead, devoid of the love that had once blinded me. I'm right here, watching you, watching me. What? He gasped, horrified by how alien I had become. Watching you reap what you've sown, I answered. I straightened up, smoothing out non-existent wrinkles in my dress. Get some rest, dear, you have a long, painful road ahead. I turned my back, then I walked out of the room, leaving him alone in that cold white box with only the beeping monitors and the crushing weight of his shattered life for company. The Moretti empire began to crumble, and I held the hammer. The changing seasons brought no reprieve for the Moretti family. The warmth of spring gave way to a biting frost, just as their dynasty collapsed completely. It had been 3 months since the Bell Ridge Hotel fire. In that time, the narrative in the Seattle Chronicle had shifted dramatically. Anthony was no longer the tragic hero who had braved the flames. Thanks to several anonymous tips, I had leaked Diana's information to the city's most vicious investigative journalist. The official fire department report had been made public. The Chronicle's headlines still echoed in my mind as I sipped my morning espresso, humming a sweet tune. Reckless affair dooms socialite, air duct leads to tragic paralysis. The public backlash was swift and merciless. Anthony's father, already mired in toxic shipping assets, suddenly found his lines of credit severed. Banks don't lend to sinking ships, and the Moretti name was taking on water at an unprecedented rate. The crescendo of their public humiliation came on a bleak morning in late November. The Davenports formally filed a civil lawsuit against Anthony for $30 million, citing gross negligence and reckless endangerment. With the Moretti liquid assets completely stripped away, they couldn't afford a private settlement. They were forced into formal discovery proceedings. I attended, of course. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. The conference room at Davenport and Associates was a masterclass in psychological intimidation. The walls were paneled in dark walnut, the air conditioning was cranked high, and a broad mahogany table stretched across the room like a headsman's block. I sat quietly in a leather chair against the wall, dressed in a modest, conservative gray suit. My beautiful wife was present but legally and financially firewalled. Blast radius. Anthony was wheeled into the room by a tired-looking aide. He was pale. He'd lost 20 pounds, his cheekbones stark beneath sallow skin, the external steel cage, the brace on his leg had been removed, replaced by a massive, rigid orthosis, but the nerve damage was permanent. He could walk without crutches. Even so, each step was a grueling battle against chronic pain. His custom-tailored suits, no longer fit, they hung on his diminished frame like borrowed clothes. A moment later, the double doors opened again. Charlotte Davenport was wheeled in by her father, a stern, imposing man radiating hostility. Anthony's head snapped up. He hadn't seen her since the disastrous confrontation in Charlotte's hospital room. His hands, resting on the wheelchair arms, began to tremble visibly. "Charlotte," Anthony whispered, his voice pitiful yet tinged with a rehearsed quality. Charlotte didn't even glance his way. Her gaze was fixed straight ahead, her face as cold and hard as stone. The vibrant, laughing girl Anthony had once been obsessed with, had been dead for a decade, replaced by a woman hollowed by pain, forced to navigate the world from a seated position. Mr. Caldwell, the Davenports' lead counsel, was a shark in a pinstripe suit. He wasted no time. After brief formalities, he activated the recording device and began a methodical evisceration of Anthony Moretti. "Moretti," Caldwell began in a condescending tone, "can you confirm that on the evening of August 14th, you bypassed police barricades and ignored a direct verbal order from Fire Chief Miller?" Anthony swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He looked desperately at his own lawyer, a sleazy, out-of-his-depth public defender. Beatrice, the defense attorney, was forced to rally. The lawyer merely nodded, "Yes." Anthony croaked, "Can you confirm that your stated intention, while shouting at George Shaw and your wife, Kelia, was indeed to rescue Charlotte?" "Yes, I thought she was dying." Caldwell produced a thick stack of documents, slapping them onto the table. "I have here the sworn affidavit of rescue team Captain David Hines. He states that his team was precisely 80 feet from the target, away from Ms. Davenport's location. Moving along a stable service corridor, they were approximately 2 minutes from effecting a safe extraction. Do you know what happened next, Mr. Moretti?" Anthony closed his eyes, a single tear tracing a path down his gaunt cheek. "Incident 2 triggered a secondary collapse. Was that you?" Caldwell's voice rose, echoing off the dark paneling. "You charged into an active structural fire zone with no training, no equipment, and zero situational awareness. Your heavy footfalls and panicked scrambling compromised a load-bearing beam. The resulting collapse buried you, shattered your femur, and forced the rescue team to divert. They abandoned their path to Ms. Davenport to save you. Is that correct?" "I didn't mean to," Anthony sobbed, leaning. He pushed his wheelchair forward slightly, pleading with the room. He gazed at Charlotte, his eyes filled with despair. "Charlotte, please, you have to believe me. I did this because I love you. I wanted to be the one to save you." The room fell into a dead silence, so oppressive it was suffocating. Then, Charlotte finally turned her head. The look she gave Anthony was filled with such deep, pure loathing that even my cold heart trembled. Ecstatic. "You don't love me, Anthony," Charlotte whispered hoarsely, venomously. "You love the idea of me, you love the fantasy of playing the hero. You wanted me to owe you my life so you could feel like a god. It's all because of your pathetic, arrogant pride that I can't feel my legs now." She leaned forward, gripping the wheels of her chair tightly. "I wish you had burned in that hallway." Anthony recoiled as if she had actually slapped him. He collapsed into his wheelchair, burying his face in trembling hands, and broke down sobbing. in front of court reporters, lawyers, and the woman he had ruined his life for. I witnessed his complete collapse. In my past life, this man had looked down on me from a great height, methodically isolating me from my family and friends. It was family, with skilled and ruthless hands, who had poisoned my tea. He was nothing short of a monster of the highest order. Now he was just a pitiful, broken shell, weeping in a cold conference room. Moreover, Aroni's breakdown had absolutely no effect on Caldwell. We have issued subpoenas for the Moretti family's financial records. It appears your father's shipping company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection this morning. You have no assets, Mr. Moretti. Therefore, we will seek to garnish all your future wages, liquidate your personal property, and place liens on any future inheritances. The public defender for the anonymous party coughed nervously. My client's wife, Korea Moretti, is the heiress to the Mitchell real estate fortune. However, my brilliant and shrewd lawyer, Dean Hale, suddenly emerged from the shadows. He walked down the corridor into the room and handed Caldwell a sealed envelope. Mrs. Moretti's assets are protected by an ironclad blind trust established long before these events. Furthermore, due to the emotional distress caused by her husband's infidelity and reckless actions, she has filed for legal separation. The Mitchell family wealth is strictly off limits. You can drain the Morettis dry, but you won't touch a single penny of Korea's money. Aroni's head snapped up, his red-rimmed eyes locking onto me from across the room. He looked like a cornered animal realizing that not only had the trap sprung, but it had been set by his own partner. Korea, he choked out, legal separation. I gave him a faint, very polite smile. I didn't say a word. I simply stood up, smoothed my skirt, and walked out of the room. The click of my heels echoed heavily on the hardwood floor, heralding the complete end of his dynasty. Seattle winters are like this. That year was exceptionally harsh. The rain turned to freezing rain, coating the city in a depressing layer of gray ice. It matched the interior of Aroni's new residence perfectly. When the bank repossessed the Moretti family estate, Beatrix suffered a mild heart attack due to stress. She is currently being treated in a public hospital. She has lost her private nurse and silk sheets, forced to share a room with a woman who watches daytime soap operas at full volume. Arnoni's father, utterly humiliated, fled to Florida after going bankrupt, living in an empty room at his brother's house, leaving his son alone at home. I was left behind alone, facing the ruins. As for Anthony, he relied on me completely. I moved us out of from a spacious penthouse to a dull first-floor apartment in a mediocre neighborhood. It was fully wheelchair accessible, I told him, out of deep pity and love. In reality, the apartment was cold and cramped, far from luxurious. There was no ocean view, no doorman, no maid, only peeling wallpaper and the constant rattling of the heating vents. I kept him there like a caged bird. I covered his basic living expenses and necessary physical therapy, ensuring he would live long enough to experience it all. Every drop of punishment he received came true. One night in December, I returned to the apartment after enjoying a lavish dinner with Jasmine and Diane. The apartment reeked of cheap microwave meals and stale sweat. Anthony sat in a recliner, his injured leg propped on a pillow, staring blankly at the muted TV. He looked 10 years older than his actual age. The light in his eyes was completely gone. He didn't even look up as I took off my coat. George came by today, Anthony said flatly. I paused, hanging my scarf on a hook. Oh, how nice of him. How's Greg? He told me he's moving to Chicago, Anthony continued, finally turning his head to look at me. His eyes were sunken, with heavy dark circles beneath them. He said he can't bear the scandal anymore. He said being associated with me is ruining his career at the company. I walked into the small kitchen and poured myself a glass of expensive red wine from my private collection. Darling, George has always been a bit of a social climber. You can't expect loyalty from a rat on a sinking ship. Kalia, you're the one who sank the ship, Anthony said. The words were soft, yet filled with heavy, painful realization. It took him months to piece everything together. The blind trust, the media leaks. I handed him the fire extinguisher myself, practically pushing him into the burning building. I took a slow sip of the wine, then leaned against the cheap laminate countertop. Anthony, what do you mean by that? He gripped the arms of the chair tightly, trying to sit up straight, but it only made him wince in pain. Don't play dumb, stop pretending. I know what you did. You knew I would fail. You knew I would get hurt. You stood there and let me go, knowing it would ruin me. I told you to follow your heart, I replied, my voice unnervingly calm. You wanted to play the hero for Charlotte. I just cleared the path for you. Is it my fault you were too incapable of saving her? You're a monster, he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. It was a pitiful sight, a man who once wielded power and moved mountains, now sobbing in a grimy recliner. You locked me out of your accounts. You watched my family lose everything. My mother was sent to a public hospital. My father is gone. Charlotte wishes I were dead. You orchestrated all of this. I didn't set the fire at Bell Ridge, Anthony, I said, walking out of the kitchen and slowly approaching him. I stood before him, my shadow falling over his face. I didn't force you to run past the fire, Chief. I didn't force you to break Charlotte Davenport's spine. I didn't force your father into bad investments. All I did was stop protecting you from the consequences. It was all your own arrogance. I leaned down, bracing my hands on the armrests of his chair, trapping him. I could smell the fear on him. He was terrified of me. Did you think you were the hero of some grand love story? I whispered, staring into his shrinking pupils. Did you think I was just an innocent sacrifice, a nagging wife, holding you back from your true destiny? Humph, Anthony, you've achieved your destiny. Look around. Are you satisfied with your happy ending? He opened his mouth to speak, but only a choked sob came out. He buried his face in his hands and wept openly. I felt nothing inside, no pity, no remorse, not a shred of attachment. The ghost of the woman who choked to death on poison tea was finally at rest. Drink your water, Anthony, I said coldly, straightening up and turning my back to him. You have physical therapy in the morning, and you'll need your strength because tomorrow is our anniversary, December 18th, the 5th anniversary of the day I foolishly promised to love, honor, and cherish him, until death do us part, and on that very day, he killed me. He claimed he wanted to make our anniversary special, meticulously preparing my favorite Earl Grey himself, all while wearing a perfectly loving smile as he slipped a lethal dose of odorless digitalis into the hot water. The poetic symmetry of the universe was almost too beautiful to bear. I woke early and put on a stunning custom outfit, a deep crimson dress, the color of blood, the color of victory. I spent an hour on my makeup, ensuring I looked radiant, powerful, unbeatable. When I walked into the living room, Anthony was already awake, struggling to move from his bed to his wheelchair. He looked exhausted, his face gray and drawn. The chronic pain in his legs kept him awake most nights, a constant reminder of his failure. Good morning, Anthony, I chirped as I walked into the tiny kitchenette. He flinched at the sound of my voice. Good morning, since it's our anniversary, I thought I'd make us some tea, I said, pulling out the kettle. I took 2 porcelain cups from the cabinet and a tin of premium loose-leaf Earl Grey from my bag. I could feel Anthony's eyes on my back. I repeated the motions slowly, deliberately. I boiled the water, steeped the leaves, poured the steaming, fragrant tea into the cups. I didn't put anything in his tea. Poisoning him would be a mercy, a quick release from the hell he now inhabited. I wanted him to live a long, mundane, painful life, but I wanted him to think. I wanted him to break from the psychological terror. I picked up the cups and walked over to the small, cheap dining table. I set 1 cup in front of him. Happy anniversary, Anthony, I said, taking a sip of my tea and smiling at him over the rim. Anthony stared at the steaming cup, not reaching for it. His eyes darted between the dark liquid and my face, suspicion at its peak. He knew how much I hated him. He knew I had systematically dismantled his life. In his broken mind, it wasn't entirely impossible that I had finally decided to finish the job. Drink it before it gets cold, I urged, gently pulling a thick manila folder from my briefcase and placing it on the table next to his teacup. Anthony's gaze locked onto the folder. What's that? I said calmly. The final step in your recovery, and I opened the folder. Inside, there was a thick stack of legal documents, worded firmly and leaving no room for doubt. On top lay a sleek black pen. Anthony leaned forward, his eyes scanning the bold, capitalized letters at the top of the page. Petition for divorce, divorce papers. Anthony gasped, his voice trembling. I've been more than generous, Anthony, I said, leaning back in my chair and crossing my legs. I paid for your surgery. I paid for your rehabilitation. I gave you a place to stay when your family went bankrupt. I kept you out of jail when the Davenports tried to press criminal charges against you, civil charges. I fulfilled my duties as your wife, Kalia, please, he begged, a fresh wave of panic washing over him. If I divorced him, he would have nothing. He couldn't do it. He had no job. His family was destitute. He would be forced to live on government disability for the rest of his life. Please don't do this. I have nothing left. I'll change. I swear to God, I'll change. I'll be the husband you want. Please don't leave me here. I don't want to be married, Anthony, I said softly. The truth echoed clear and cold in the frigid apartment. I wanted justice, and now I have it. I tapped the black pen. Sign it. If you sign it now, without a fight, I'll leave the apartment lease in your name and prepay the next 6 months' rent. That's my parting gift. If you dare to fight me, my lawyers will ruin you so thoroughly you won't even be able to afford the wheelchair you're sitting in. You'll be on the street by Friday. His eyes widened in horror as he stared at me. He searched for the woman who had once loved him, the woman he had trampled on, the woman he had planned to leave for Charlotte, but she wasn't there. Only the executioner remained. His hand shook violently as he reached for the pen. He stared at the signature line, a single tear falling onto the paper, smudging the ink where his printed name would go. In my past life, he had forced the pen into my hand, my body shutting down from the poison, whispering that it was the only way to balance the scales. Now his hand moved of its own accord, guided by the weight of it all. He was utterly defeated. He pressed the pen to the paper and scrawled his signature in a hurried, messy script. His name. He had sold me the last shred of his connection to wealth and status. He dropped the pen and slumped back into his wheelchair, covering his face, a broken, hollow sound escaping his throat. I neatly gathered the documents and placed them back into the manila folder. I stood up, picking up my briefcase and coat. Anthony, aren't you going to drink your tea? I asked, pausing at the doorway. He looked up, his face streaked with tears, his eyes fixed on the cup. He reached out a trembling hand, slowly picked up the cup, and brought it to his lips. He longed for a shred of warmth in his cold, shattered life. He trembled as he took a deep sip. Darling, it's just tea. I smiled and opened the front door. The sharp, icy air of Seattle rushed into the apartment. But remember, you only get what you give. I turned and left, slamming the door shut behind me. The lock clicked into place, the loudest, most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I walked down the street, my heels clicking against the pavement in a victorious rhythm. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. Anthony Moretti was like a ghost, trapped in the hell he had built, and I was finally, completely free. This was the essence of revenge, cold and executed flawlessly. Kalia hadn't just survived, she had been reborn. She had utterly shattered the toxic fantasies of Anthony and Charlotte, leaving them to flounder in the consequences of their own actions. Story 2. When my parents came to the door to claim me, I looked troubled. I've heard that the real heiress can never outdo the fake one and always ends up suffering terribly. I'd better not go back. Hearing this, they hurriedly tried to comfort me. Silly child, Wei Wei is so gentle and kind, you'll definitely get along well with her. I nodded and opened my phone. To prevent her from harming me, you need to understand the schemes of the fake heiress. Here are 100 short dramas about true and fake heiresses. After you finish watching them, I'll go home with you. After watching 100 short dramas, my parents were shocked, their worldview shattered. These are all made up. Wei Wei would never do such things. I didn't say yes or no, but instead took out another agreement, then signed this. Every time I'm harmed, you have to compensate me. False accusations, 5,000, minor injuries, 10,000, serious injuries, to be calculated separately. My parents were convinced I was overthinking it and signed without hesitation, but their faces were soon slapped hard. Less than half an hour after returning home, Luo Shuwei claimed that her necklace was missing. Her eyes were red, as if I had truly bullied her. Sister, that platinum necklace was a birthday gift from Mom and Dad. Please give it back to me. I know you are their biological daughter, so you can take anything you want. Just return the necklace to me. Mom and Dad immediately frowned, looking as if they were about to launch an interrogation. I pulled out my phone with a blank expression, opened the short video, and handed it to my parents. Look, the scene where she's falsely accused of stealing is right here. They froze, the words of accusation stuck in their throats. and forced out an awkward smile. Wei Wei, look again. Your sister couldn't have taken your things. Luo Shuwei was stunned, probably not expecting her parents to actually choose to believe me. You all think I'm lying, don't you? I get it. Now that my sister is back, you don't want me anymore. What's the point of me staying here then? She suddenly stood up and bolted toward the door. I dragged the progress bar, pretending to run away from home. This is in here too. Luo Shui's footsteps faltered, and she cried even louder, vanishing instantly into the darkness of the night. Wei Wei, it's dangerous outside. Come back quickly. Dad was so anxious that he immediately chased after her, even losing one of his shoes in the rush. Mom's eyes reddened, and she couldn't help but blame me. Shuyi, Wei Wei is your sister. Both of you are my precious daughters. Can't you be a little nicer to her? I felt utterly baffled. It's her who treats me poorly. She said I stole her necklace. Before I could finish, my mother cut me off. Wei Wei is feeling insecure right now. As her older sister, you should be more understanding and patient with her. Are you saying I should take the blame for stealing? Mom sighed. Regardless, when she comes back, you should apologize to her. She's never had to endure hardship since she was little, and I don't know how much she'll cry over this, demanding the innocent to apologize to the wrongdoer. There are plenty of such plots in short dramas. Mom's expression stiffened, and she didn't dare say another word. I hadn't forgotten the agreement, so I silently opened Alipay. Slander fee, 5,000. Please make the payment. I heard Dad found Luo Shuwei under the bridge. She was drenched by the heavy rain, her little face deathly pale. After her father carried her back, she threw herself onto the bed, rolling around and throwing a tantrum. Don't you care about me? You all love my sister and not me. Her mother's heart ached so much that tears fell straight down, and she hurriedly wrapped her in a large towel, coaxing her gently to change her clothes. Dad kept checking her forehead to see if she had a fever. Be good, Wei Wei, don't make a fuss. What's a necklace worth? Dad will buy you a set of diamond jewelry. Okay, no matter if your sister comes back or not, you will always be Mom and Dad's precious darling. Upon hearing this, Luo Shuwei burst into tears. Don't lie to me. Her mother held her tightly, also sobbing uncontrollably. I understand now. It turns out what they show in those short dramas is all true. In the face of favoritism, the weight of blood ties is far too light. Fortunately, I was mentally prepared for this, otherwise I can't imagine how heartbroken I would have been. Dad saw me sitting quietly to the side, with no intention of helping at all, and his face darkened as he scolded angrily. Shuyi, we are a family. Are you just going to watch your sister suffer like this? I shrugged. What do you want me to do? Go to the kitchen and bring over the ginger soup that Aunt Wang has been simmering. No big deal. Just consider it as accumulating good karma for myself. Without a word, I went to the kitchen and brought the ginger soup to Luo Shuai's lips. She picked up the spoon and was about to take a sip when, from an angle our parents couldn't see, she shot me a provocative glare. Here it comes. This is the moment in the short drama when the fake heiress is about to scheme against someone. I remained calm, wanting to see what Luo Shuwei was scheming. Sure enough, she hooked her finger around the rim of the bowl, and the steaming ginger soup immediately splashed all over her. It's so hot, it's burning me. Sister, you. Luo Shui's face showed a mix of shock and pain, as if she couldn't believe it. Dad rushed over and pushed me aside. Luo Shui, are you crazy? How could you treat your sister like this? I was caught off guard and slammed into the corner of the wall, a large bump quickly swelling on my forehead. He still wanted to hit me, but Mom hurriedly pulled him back, her tone stern. Shui, you really did wrong. Quickly apologize to your sister. I remained silent, directly opened the video, and dragged the progress bar to the scene where the fake heiress used a sympathy ploy to drive a wedge between our parents and the real heiress. Forgotten after watching. Your memories are truly poor. Our parents looked at each other, ultimately not daring to bring up the matter of making me apologize again. They were busy finding burn ointment and a new nightgown for Luo Shuwei. No one noticed the swelling on my forehead. After they finished, another 10,000 yuan arrived in my Alipay account. Great. On the first day back home, I had already earned 15,000. Feeling guilty towards me, for the next 3 days, my parents were constantly asking after my well-being. Luo Shuwei also seemed like a different person, calling me sister all the time and treating me incredibly well. My parents praised her with relief, saying, Wei Wei has grown up, this is the good child of our Luo family. Given her good behavior, my parents bought her a pile of luxury goods again. On the fourth day, my cheap younger brother Luo Shuan returned from his research trip, eagerly showing the gifts he had bought for the whole family: dad's lighter, mom's perfume, sister's silk scarf. I remember all the things you like. Everyone received exquisitely wrapped gifts, except for me, watching the happy family of four enjoying themselves. I tactfully prepared to return to my room. Mom suddenly noticed my retreating figure and exclaimed in surprise, "Shuan, didn't you buy a gift for Sister Shuyi?" Luo Shuan pouted, "I only have Wei Wei as my sister." These words were overheard by Grandpa as he entered the room, and his anger shot through the roof. The elderly man placed the utmost importance on blood ties, and Luo Shuan's ears were about to suffer the consequences. Grandpa twisted his ear while scolding him. "You little brat, who taught you to talk like that? Shuyi is your real sister. Wei Wei is just being raised in our home as a favor. She's an outsider. You can't even tell who's family and who's not. I'll teach you a lesson." The word outsider deeply stung Luo Shuwei. She dared not argue with her grandfather, so she could only glare at me. Her eyes were filled with resentment and indignation. Luo Shuan cried out in pain, "I don't understand what an outsider is, but I only recognize Sister Wei Wei." Grandpa's grip tightened even more, hearing their son's pig slaughter-like screams. Mom and Dad were heartbroken, desperately begging Grandpa to let go. "Dad, please calm down, we'll properly educate Shuan." Humph. Grandpa couldn't bear to make his grandson cry any longer either. He pulled me to sit on the sofa. After looking around, he quickly figured out what was going on. "So my granddaughter is the only one without a gift. Fine, fine, fine. I can't believe you do this. Shuyi, Grandpa has your back. The Luo family's heirloom jewelry. I'm saving it just for you." "No one else gets a share." Luo Shui's face showed grievance, tears welling up in her eyes. Her mother cautiously spoke up. "Does Wei Wei also have?" Grandpa resolutely refused. "My belongings are only for members of the Luo family to take. Some people have impure intentions, so it's better to send them away early." Even if Luo Shuwei had the thickest skin, she couldn't stay any longer. She ran back to her room, tears streaming down her face. Dad complained to Grandpa, "You speak too harshly. I've watched Wei Wei grow up, and I know her better than you do." "Pig brain," Grandpa sneered. "How did I end up with such a fool for a son?" After this incident, my cheap brother looked at me even more unfavorably. He deliberately put bugs in my water cup, squeezed 502 glue into my slippers, and secretly hid my homework. I didn't care at all about it. In fact, I secretly hoped he would stir up more trouble, because every time he pulled a prank, my parents would transfer money to me. All in all, my Alipay account had already saved up 150,000 yuan. Luo Shuan was so furious he was hopping mad. "What kind of sister are you? Did you come to our family just to make money?" "Yes," I silently answered in my heart. "With money, I could afford surgery for my foster mother. She has been suffering from joint pain for many years and urgently needs bilateral replacement surgery." I've inquired. "The surgery will cost 500,000, but that fool absolutely refuses to take money from our parents, afraid I'll be looked down upon. Anyway, I won't acknowledge you, you country bumpkin." Luo Shuan threw out these words and then hurried off to find Luo Shuwei. In the distance, I saw the two of them playing in the garden. After observing from behind a tree for a while, I started doing my homework. Not long after, I suddenly heard Luo Shuan's faint cries for help in my ears. Without a second thought, I took off running. That kid was flailing around in the pool, gulping down water, and looked like he was about to sink. Luo Shuwei seemed terrified, just standing there on the shore crying. The pool wasn't deep for me, so I went in and dragged Luo Shuan ashore with all my might, not even getting my hair wet. My parents rushed over upon hearing the commotion, their faces pale with shock. "Shuan, what's wrong with you?" Luo Shuan kept spitting out dirty water, pointing at me with his finger. "It was her. She pushed me down. She wants revenge on me." "What?" Their faces turned pale. "Wei Wei, is that true?" Luo Shuwei neither confirmed nor denied it. "Woo-woo, I'm sorry, I didn't see clearly." Dad could no longer hold back and slapped me hard. "Luo Shuyi, your brother was just playing a prank on you, and you want his life. Is your heart made of stone?" Mother hesitated to speak, finally letting out a sigh. I pursed my lips, retrieved a miniature camera from my hair, and then turned on my phone screen. Watch this before you judge me. The screen clearly shows that I only rushed to save Luo Shuan after hearing his cry for help. And his falling into the water had nothing to do with me. My father was left speechless, his hand that had been raised to strike me unsure where to go. Silly child, why didn't you take it out earlier? What else could it be? If you had taken it out earlier, I wouldn't have gotten slapped. If I hadn't been slapped, I wouldn't have gotten the money. One slap for $10,000 is a great deal, Mom asked. Shuyi, why did you put this on your head for no reason? I smiled. Isn't it being used now? Her expression froze. Then she scolded Luo Shuan, you little brat, how dare you lie? I'm going to spank you until your bottom blooms today. Luo Shuwei gave Luo Shuan a meaningful look. Luo Shuan immediately clung to his father's leg, crying and making a fuss. I was confused in the water. Please forgive me, sister. Mom pretended to hit him a few times. How could your sister hold a grudge against you? See if you dare talk nonsense again in the future. I wasn't in the mood to play along with their act. So I just took out Alipay. Dad paid without any hesitation, because his grip was too strong, making my face look truly dreadful. He specifically gave an extra 10,000. What a generous customer indeed, being wronged one after another. My parents' guilt towards me reached its peak. They decided to hold a press conference to announce to the public that I am the true heiress of the Luo family. All the media in the city came that day, making the scene exceptionally lively. My parents surrounded me, placing me at the center of the stage. They were beaming with joy, but Luo Shuan still wore a sour expression. Just as Dad picked up the receiver and was about to speak, I counted down silently in my heart, 3, 2, 1. Sure enough, his phone rang. It wasn't that I had foresight. That's just how it always plays out in short dramas. After answering the call, Dad's expression changed dramatically. Weiwei's been in a car accident. Quick, come with me to Luo's hospital. Mom was so frightened she nearly collapsed on the spot, holding my hand with one hand and Luo Shuan's with the other. She stumbled along behind Dad as we ran. In the hospital, Luo Shuwei lay with her eyes closed as if asleep. Her little face was pale, and her foot was wrapped in a thick bandage. Her parents were nearly scared out of their wits, rushing over and crying out in despair. Weiwei, are you okay? Open your eyes and look at Mom and Dad. Luo Shuwei remained completely motionless. A doctor in a white coat walked in, looking very anxious. Mr. Luo, Mrs. Luo, the young lady has lost too much blood and urgently needs type AB blood. The hospital supply is insufficient. Please think of a solution quickly. Mom turned to look at me. Shuyi, your blood type is AB, right? Heh. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Don't you find these plot lines familiar? Blood transfusions, kidney transplants, faking death. Clearly, they're targeting me. Just as I took out my phone to open a short drama, my father suddenly swung his hand and knocked it away. What time is it? And you're still watching this? Are you so cold-hearted that you just stand by and watch your sister die? I picked up the phone and held up 5 fingers. 50,000. Give me 50,000, and I'll donate 400 milliliters for her. Luo Shuan punched and kicked me. I knew it. You came to our family for money, you wretched woman. Mom wiped away her tears sadly, unable to understand why I needed so much money. Shuyi. She struggled to speak. Do we have to talk about money even as a family? My father was utterly disappointed in me. He anxiously shouted, stop talking, give me the payment code, I'll give you the money, go get your blood drawn right now. I silently accepted the money and obediently followed the doctor to have my blood drawn. The three of them were all fussing over Luo Shuwei, with no one concerned about whether it was safe for me to give so much blood. After drawing 400 milliliters, my head was spinning, and I was about to pull out the needle, but the doctor pressed down firmly. Don't move. We still need to draw another 1,000 milliliters. My alarm bells went off. Drawing 1,400 milliliters at once could be fatal. 2 nurses had quietly appeared beside me, tightly covering my mouth. In that split second, I realized I had been set up as I lost more and more blood. I couldn't hold on and passed out. The moment I closed my eyes, it felt as if someone had burst through the door and knocked the doctor down with a single punch. When I opened my eyes again, my parents were sitting by my bed, crying uncontrollably. Luo Shuwei and Luo Shuan knelt with their heads bowed by the bedside, while their grandfather scolded them and whipped them with a cane. You heartless brats, you dare harm my granddaughter. Even beating you to death would be too light a punishment. Luo Shuwei endured the pain in silence. Luo Shuan, with his delicate skin and tender flesh, couldn't bear it and cried out as if shaking the heavens. However, this time, Mom and Dad did not plead for them. Seeing that I was awake, Mom was both surprised and delighted, quickly taking my hand. Shuyi, how are you feeling? Grandpa threw away the whip, grabbed Luo Shuwei by the collar, and dragged her in front of me. Shuyi, don't be afraid. Grandpa has found the culprit who harmed you. This black-hearted person conspired with that scoundrel. First, they faked a car accident, then told the doctor that they were the heirs of the Luo family, forcing the doctor to drain your blood. They were trying to kill you. Father was heartbroken, trembling as he raised his hand and slapped Luo Shuwei. Shuyi is your sister. She suffered for 17 years before returning to this family. Luo Shuwei didn't dare to dodge, enduring the slap directly, sobbing and admitting her mistake. It was my own delusion that led me astray, and I harmed my sister because of it, but I was just afraid that Mom and Dad would abandon me. Please, sister, forgive me this once. Seeing that I remained silent, she steeled her heart and began kowtowing repeatedly, her forehead thudding against the floor. If my sister doesn't forgive me, I'll keep kowtowing like this. Soon, her forehead was swollen beyond recognition. In their eyes, my parents were filled with pity, while Luo Shuan leaped up from the floor, pointing at me and shouting, "Why did you have to come back? I don't want you back. It would be better if I didn't have a sister like you." My mother stared in shock, her eyes wide. "How dare you speak to your sister like that? Apologize right now." "I won't apologize, that's the truth. If she hadn't come back, we'd still be a happy family, a perfect family." Grandpa suddenly lashed out with a whip, striking his buttocks hard. "You little brat, just like your parents, all fools. Your sister saved you last time, you ungrateful wretch. Who asked her to save me? Even if she hadn't, I wouldn't have died." Grandpa snorted coldly. "That's not necessarily true. The person who urged you into the water, would they definitely save you? Have you ever thought about it? If both you and your sister were to die, who would end up inheriting your parents' estate?" Luo Shuwei suddenly froze, her face quickly turning pale. Luo Shuan wasn't foolish to the very end. He looked at me and Luo Shuwei with suspicion and uncertainty, gradually falling silent. My parents complained that Grandpa shouldn't use conspiracy theories to harm the feelings between the children, and should instead guide them to love and care for each other. Grandpa angrily stormed off. Due to the severe nature of this incident, and to prevent others from harming me, my parents quickly announced on the group's website and in the media that I am the first heir of the Luo family, followed by Luo Shuan, while Luo Shuwei only holds 5% of the shares. Actually, my parents wanted to give her 20%. But Grandpa absolutely refused to agree. Mom had no choice but to comfort her. Wei, even 5% of the shares comes with a lot of dividends, enough for you to live very comfortably. You must remember, Shuyi is your older sister, and both you and Shuan need to listen to her. Otherwise, Mom and Dad won't be able to protect you anymore. Understand?" She nodded with tears in her eyes. Another 100,000 yuan was deposited into my Alipay account. The total has reached 270,000. I still need 230,000 more to cover my foster mother's surgery expenses. Luo Shuwei has been particularly well-behaved lately. Luo Shuan doesn't cling to her as much anymore. Instead, he seems to be trying to please me, awkwardly giving me various little trinkets. I can tell he's not a bad person at heart, just a bit foolish, always being used as a pawn by others. I neither reject nor get too close to his attempts to be friendly. He finally couldn't hold back, his eyes welling up with tears as he apologized to me. "I'm sorry, that time Sister Weiwei only said to teach you a lesson. I never thought the doctor would actually draw so much blood from you." My parents' attitude towards me has also undergone a significant change. They no longer cater to Luo Shuwei in everything, saying they must treat us equally. At home, the days are peaceful and calm. Only I can see that Luo Shuwei is growing increasingly anxious deep down. She fears being replaced by me, afraid of losing everything in the Luo family. I watch this coldly from the sidelines, simply waiting for her to make a move. Soon, a classic scene from a short drama, Kidnapping, unfolds. On our way home from school. Both Luo Shuwei and I are taken to the rooftop of a building. The kidnapper lifted my chin with the cold blade, chuckling darkly. "The Luo family's young lady, you really are quite pretty." if it weren't for, what a shame. I stared at him coldly. He swallowed nervously and fell silent. Luo Shuwei kept her head deeply bowed, lost in thought. Mom and Dad arrived quickly, dragging a heavy bag of cash, trembling so much they could barely stand. The money you want is here, now let my 2 daughters go. The kidnapper chuckled a few times. Mr. Luo, Mrs. Luo, you can't be too greedy. Listen, you can only choose 1 daughter, the other one, we'll keep as a hostage for our escape. Mom and Dad nearly collapsed on the spot. No, 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 I'll give you however much money you want. Please just let them go, they're still just children. The kidnapper held a knife to both my and Luo Shuwei's necks, and with just a slight pressure, our skin began to bleed. Luo Shuwei cried out in pain, her beautiful face twisted in agony as she pleaded, Mom, Dad, please save me, Wei Wei hurts so much. She cried and coughed, as if she might faint and die at any moment. Father clenched his fists tightly, while Mother, heartbroken, knelt down toward the kidnappers. Please, I beg you, let my 2 daughters go, take me as a hostage instead. The kidnapper grew impatient. I don't have time to waste on your nonsense. Hurry up and choose one, otherwise, I'll kill them both. He pushed me and Luo Shuwei to the edge of the railing, looking as if he was about to shove us over. The building was a full 60 stories high. A fall from here would be certain death. The cold wind howled, sending chills through our hearts. My parents screamed in panic, quickly shouting, We want Wei Wei, we want Wei Wei. Luo Shuwei was overjoyed to tears, giving me a triumphant smile as if to say, You lost. I looked at my parents, who couldn't meet my eyes, only desperately making promises. Shuyi, don't worry, Mom and Dad will definitely save you, we won't let you get hurt. I hummed in acknowledgement, showing my understanding. If you choose her, I won't blame you. After all, in the same situation, if I had to choose between you or my adoptive mother, I would also choose my adoptive mother. My parents were incredulous. We are your biological parents. I didn't respond, my expression full of sarcasm. Luo Shuwei whispered a challenge. You've lost, Luo Shuyi. I'm going to take your parents and your little brother back. I couldn't be bothered with her. I didn't return to the Luo family for my parents or my brother. I came for the money. Just as she was about to say something else, the blaring sirens wailed loudly. Hands up, you're surrounded. A group of police officers, armed to the teeth, surrounded us completely. The kidnapper glared furiously. You dared to call the police. My parents panicked, frantically waving their hands. We didn't. I straightened up and brushed the dust off my pants. I was the one who reported it. My parents stood there, dumbstruck. When did you report it? I pulled out my phone, turned the volume up to the maximum, and the voice of Luo Shuwei came through the speaker. I'll give you 300,000 to help me put on a show. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to actually take a life. It's just an act, right? Kidnap me and Luo Shuyi, and force those 2 old folks to choose one of us. They'll definitely choose me. I want to drive a wedge between them and their own flesh and blood. Why should that bitch inherit the Luo family? The room fell into complete silence. Luo Shuwei could no longer gloat. She had turned to stone. I spoke calmly. That's right. Since you tried to harm me repeatedly, I installed a surveillance camera in your room. My parents were on the verge of fainting. So, you knew all along. Why didn't you say something earlier? Yes, I knew all along, and I had already reported it to the police. In today's act, Luo Shuwei wanted to crush my heart, to completely drive a wedge between me and my parents, but there was never much affection between us to begin with. I was just playing along with her act for the money. I wonder how much compensation Mom and Dad will give me this time. Seeing the situation turn sour, the kidnapper immediately raised his hands in surrender. I'd been wronged. It was Miss Luo who paid me to help with the kidnapping. I'm originally a law-abiding citizen. Damn it, Miss Luo, say something. Luo Shuwei snapped back to reality and quickly knelt down, crawling on her knees toward her parents. It's not like that, Mom and Dad. Please let me explain. Her parents seemed not to recognize her. Taking several steps back, they dared not recall what they had just done. For the sake of a scheming adopted daughter, they had just abandoned their own flesh and blood, and this was under the premise that the adopted daughter had repeatedly harmed their biological daughter. Could there be any parents in the world as foolish as them? The farce came to an end. with both the kidnapper and Luo Shuwei being taken to the police station for investigation. After my parents sent me home, they felt utterly ashamed. I don't mind at all, skillfully opening the payment QR code. This time, by putting myself in the game, I received the largest sum of money since coming home, a full 500,000. My foster mother's surgery costs were covered in one go, with plenty to spare. I sincerely expressed my gratitude to them, yet they all bowed their heads deeply, weeping in a restrained manner. The next day, I packed up simply and left the Luo family. With enough money gathered, I needed to arrange surgery for my foster mother. In just 2 short months, she had already needed a wheelchair and had lost several pounds. I held her in my arms, tears falling one by one. She nervously patted my head. Sweetie, are you being bullied in the new home? Oh, it's all my fault for being useless. If you're unhappy there, I'll fight for justice for you even if it kills me. I shook my head gently. Mom, I have money now, and I will definitely make you stand up again. While going through the tedious admission procedures, my parents called me. Shuyi, where have you gone? Why did you leave without saying a word? Their anxious tone made it clear they were genuinely worried about me. I was busy filling out forms. Is there something you need? If not, I'm hanging up. Mom is crying again, sobbing as she begs for my forgiveness. Shuyi, Mom knows she was wrong. I'll arrange for Wei Wei to live somewhere else, so she won't have another chance to harm you. Can you come home, Dad? And I miss you so much. After I nearly died, they finally decided to send Luo Shuwei away. Luo Shuan also leaned close to the phone, calling me sister for the first time. Sis, I miss you too. I'm really sorry I didn't get you a gift last time. I've bought you a new one. Can you come home too? Open it. I refused. I'm not going back. That place isn't my home. Every time you choose to believe Lu Shuwei, I remind myself that you're not my family. Mom quickly denied it. No, Shuyi, it's just that we're used to. I interrupted her. That's right, habit. You're used to being good to Luo Shuwei, used to taking her side, even though she's always harming me. But I don't need parents who are used to being good to others. I understand your favoritism toward Luo Shuwei, but please don't come looking for me anymore. After saying that, I hung up directly. The hospital is urging me to submit the documents. I don't have time to waste words on them. Luo Shuwei was released not long after. I left the Luo family as she wished, but her relationship with our parents and Luo Shuan could never return to what it was before. No matter how she tried to please and act cute, our parents remained indifferent toward her. Grandfather even forced our parents to take back the 5% shares they had given her. And once a suitable residence was found, she would have to move out. Luo Shuwei never expected that after I left, her situation would become even more difficult. My parents were too ashamed to keep calling me, so they just kept signing property transfer documents, giving me most of the Luo family's assets. I didn't accept them and sent them back untouched. The surgery and recovery costs for my adoptive mother were already covered. From now on, I can work and earn money. Living an ordinary life is enough. In the blink of an eye, it was my grandfather's 80th birthday. He found me, hoping I would return to attend his birthday banquet. The old man has been good to me and even saved my life once, so I had no reason to refuse. On that day, I brought gifts to my grandfather's house. As expected, my parents, Luo Shuwei, and Luo Shuan were all there. Luo Shuwei looked haggard, and even in her princess dress, her eyes lacked their usual sparkle. Grandfather scolded her parents. Why did you bring that unlucky thing here? I never invited her. A flicker of resentment quickly crossed Luo Shuwei's face. She presented a lavishly wrapped gift with both hands. Grandfather, this is for you. I know I was wrong. Humph. Grandfather didn't take it, leaving her standing there awkwardly while he warmly pulled me over to introduce me to everyone. Take a good look, everyone. This is my real granddaughter. Don't get it wrong. The Luo family will be handed over to her to manage in the future. For the sake of my old face, I hope you'll all look after my granddaughter from now on. Of course, the old master is truly blessed. Your granddaughter is both clever and beautiful. Nature is far stronger than her parents. Everyone present was astute, having long heard about the matter of the Luo family's true and false heiresses. Now, seeing it with their own eyes, they were even more convinced that I was the future heir of the Luo family, each treating me with the utmost respect. Luo Shuwei nearly gritted her teeth to the point of breaking. After Grandpa and my parents went off to socialize, she quietly walked over to me. Are you satisfied now? I have nothing left, all thanks to you. I had no interest in engaging with someone who wanted me dead, so I simply walked away. She chased after me, furious and flustered. Luo Shui, just you wait, your luck won't last forever. The chubby little boy, Luo Shuan, suddenly emerged from somewhere and gave her a hard shove. Don't you dare curse my sister. He stood in front of me like a little man, his face filled with anger. The guests around whispered, and Luo Shuwei shot Luo Shuan a glare before hurrying away. That look was terrifying. I warned the little fatty, watch your life, sister. Are you willing to forgive me? Luo Shuan took advantage of the situation and followed me around all night. During the toast, Luo Shuwei appeared again. She approached Grandpa with a glass of wine, adopting a very humble attitude. Grandpa, I'd like to propose a toast to you. In the past, I was in the wrong. I beg you, as a magnanimous person, not to hold it against me. Please drink this glass of wine. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Grandpa couldn't afford to make a scene. He took the wine glass and brought it to his lips. Luo Shuwei smiled faintly, a hint of malice flickering imperceptibly in her eyes, thinking of various short drama plots. I hurriedly snatched the wine glass from him. Grandpa was puzzled. Shuyi, what's wrong? I carefully examined the wine. It was clear and free of impurities. Seemingly fine. Dad understood and chuckled. Shuyi, you're overthinking it. Wei Wei said she wouldn't cause any more trouble, and besides, she wouldn't dare. Ignoring him, I insisted on searching Lu Shuwei. She sobbed tearfully. Even if sister doesn't like me, you can't insult me like this. I truly and sincerely want to apologize to Grandpa. Grandpa isn't like Mom and Dad. He chose to support me. My granddaughter must have her reasons for doing this. Let her search. Luo Shuwei grew anxious and knelt down with a thud. I swear, if Luo Shuan seized the opportunity to restrain her hands. Sister, search her quickly. I gently reached out and retrieved a packet of powder from Luo Shuwei. She forced herself to remain calm. These are my vitamins, isn't it? Let the doctor examine it and we'll know. Grandfather immediately handed the powder and the liquid to his personal physician for examination. The power of money is immense. Before long, the doctor produced the examination report. The powder is cephalosporin, and the wine is also mixed with a large amount of cephalosporin. Once consumed, it is almost impossible to save them. Mom and Dad were trembling with shock. How dare you harm Grandpa? The Luo family can no longer tolerate you. Pack your things and go back to your own home immediately. Luo Shuwei was truly frightened now. She usually had no chance to get close to Grandpa. She had intended to take advantage of the birthday banquet to eliminate him first, then deal with me and Luo Shuan slowly. Who would have thought? I saw through it again. Go back to that terrifyingly poor home. She refused. What she wanted was the position of the Luo family heir. Mom, Dad, it was a moment of foolishness on my part. I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I beg you. Unfortunately, this time, even if she cracked her skull, she couldn't regain her parents' trust. Her parents resolutely packed her up and sent her back. Shuyi, thank goodness you were there. They wept with guilt. It's all our fault for being so foolish. Not only did we make you suffer so much, but we almost harmed your grandfather. Grandpa was equally shaken. That girl is more venomous than a snake. If it weren't for Shuyi coming back, I'm afraid these old bones of mine would have been buried. After saying that, he scolded my parents again. Two idiots. The proper thing to do is to hand over the Luo family to my granddaughter for management as soon as possible. Relying on you too, the Luo family will be ruined sooner or later. It was said that after Luo Shuwei was sent back, her biological parents were overjoyed. Her brother was worried about not having a bride price to marry a wife, so he planned to exchange her in marriage. How could Luo Shuwei agree? She fled, disappearing without a trace. Upon hearing this news, my parents were still deeply saddened. After all, they had cherished her like a pearl for 17 years. I was busy taking care of my foster mother and had no time to deal with irrelevant people. My parents no longer insisted on me going back. Instead, they took the initiative to approach my adoptive mother, introducing her to good doctors and going to great lengths to obtain imported medicine for her. My adoptive mother didn't want me to be separated from my biological parents, so she always spoke well of them. On my 18th birthday, I returned to the Luo family. This time, it wasn't for the money. The whole family threw me a grand birthday party, and no one mentioned Luo Shuwei's name again. Yet just as we were taking the family photo, Luo Shuwei drove up in a beat-up car, intent on running us all over. She had grown haggard, her entire being radiating an aura of resentment. All of you, just die, I hate you, let's all just die together. She stepped on the accelerator, letting out a chilling, nervous laugh. I quickly pressed the remote control. The surrounding floorboards collapsed one after another, and Luo Shuwei, along with the car, plunged into the massive pit. Fortunately, I had been prepared all along. After all, I've watched too many short dramas about fake and real heiresses, and I know that just when things are about to be perfect, something always goes wrong. Luo Xuan's mouth formed an shape as he gave me a thumbs up. My parents had completely given up on Luo Shuwei. They hired a top lawyer and sued Luo Shuwei, sending her to prison, and I got into my dream university, embarking on a new journey. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. During the summer vacation of my junior year, while I was selling drinks at a bar, I happened to witness the crown prince of the Feng family, Feng Si, arguing with his girlfriend. As the two of them were arguing heatedly, Feng Si suddenly pulled me into his arms and said to Qin Ran with a fierce tone, "What's wrong with a drink seller? Not only do I like her, but I'm also going to marry her." If Qin Ran had just looked back at him, she would have realized that this was just Feng Si's angry remark, but she didn't. Instead, she turned around and went abroad to study with her senior. Feng Si couldn't swallow this humiliation and, in a fit of pique, married me into the Feng family. I went from being a wine seller to the young mistress of the Feng family, second only to one and above 10,000, but just 3 years into our marriage, Qin Ran returned to the country alone. I've known since childhood that I'm very beautiful, and I've only grown more beautiful with age. I'm well aware of the conveniences that beauty can bring me. At the same time, I am even more aware that beauty is not all-powerful. Ability is what truly matters. During the summer vacation of my junior year, I leveraged my good looks and quick wit to become a bar hostess selling drinks. Carrying expensive bottles of various liquors, I navigated through the mixed crowd of all sorts. After just a week in the bar, my eyes had become like a ruler. I could tell at a glance who was rich, who was poor, who was generous, and who was stingy. That day, as I was scanning the crowd as usual, trying to spot tonight's easy target, I suddenly found myself drawn to the man in the center of the bar. His aura was too clean, completely out of place in the smoky, chaotic bar. Clearly not a regular. He lounged lazily on the sofa, every inch of him exuding an air of refined elegance. Though his clothes didn't show any obvious brand, the watch faintly visible on his wrist was worth several apartments in the city center. I observed him carefully for a while. He didn't seem to be in a good mood, downing several glasses of red wine one after another. Alone with his head tilted back, I seized the moment, picked up the most expensive bottle of red wine in the shop, and walked over, holding the wine. I deliberately moved to his right side, tilted my head at a 45-degree angle to show my attractive left profile, and half squatted as I asked, "Sir, it looks like you've had quite a bit to drink. Would you like some more wine?" The man glanced at me impatiently, but his expression softened noticeably once he got a clear look at my face. "How much is it?" he asked while he was sizing me up. I was also observing him closely from up close. Although his shirt wasn't a brand name, the collar was embroidered with lettering, clearly a high-end custom piece. On his feet, he wore a pair of limited edition running shoes, definitely a rich second generation, and also the lamb to be slaughtered tonight. The original price is 10,000, but if you're buying, I can give you a discount, 8,888. Hearing this, the man snorted with a laugh, his gaze carrying a hint of scrutiny as he looked at me. "What?" Looking down on me, I smiled ingratiatingly. "How could that be? It's because you're handsome that I'm giving you a discount. Who doesn't love to hear sweet words? The wealthy only love them even more." Sure enough, after hearing me praise his good looks, the man's mood visibly improved. "Then let's have a bottle." With a grand gesture, he transferred 10,000 to me. After the money was transferred, I dutifully opened the wine and poured it for him, going through the motions with impeccable service. Just as I was about to move on to find my next target, he suddenly grabbed me, losing my balance. I ended up sitting right in his lap. It was the first time I had ever been this close to a guy. and my face instantly flushed red. Even though I knew I was attractive and he was handsome, this was moving way too fast. Just as I was struggling to figure out how to turn him down, a girl stormed over angrily, picked up a glass from the table, and without a word, hurled it straight at us. Just as I panicked, thinking my face was about to be ruined, the man quickly shielded me, pulling me under him. With a loud thud, the cup smashed hard against the man's back. Although I wasn't hit, I only wanted to make money and had no intention of causing trouble, let alone getting involved in someone else's relationship. So, I calmly pushed the man aside. Feng Si, is this what you meant by being too busy? Just as the two were about to start a fight, I prepared to slip away quietly. After the man sensed my intention, he immediately interlocked his fingers with mine. Yes, you can turn down my invitation because of your senior. Why can't I refuse yours because of someone else? He held on so tightly that it hurt, and no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't break free. The two of them argued until their faces were flushed, neither willing to back down. The only one truly hurt was me. I felt as though my knuckles were about to be crushed. The girl's eyes reddened with anger, her face pale and heartbreaking to see. I know her, the senior from the dance department next door. Also the recognized campus belle of their school, and I heard she's a rich second generation heiress. I recognized the bag in her hand, a limited edition from a certain brand, not something you can buy just by having money. My roommate once explained it to me. As a poor student who only goes to class and works part-time, the only reason I know her is because of my roommate. My roommate is a fan of Chin Ran and her boyfriend's couple pairing, and the people I hear about most from my roommate are the two of them. They grew up together as childhood sweethearts, and after getting together, they broke up and reconciled many times, with the boy basically compromising every time. What I remember most is my roommate saying that Chin Ran's boyfriend, in order to make peace with her, specially chartered a cruise ship to prepare a surprise for her. Their lives seemed like a fairy tale to me, utterly out of reach. I looked up at the man beside me, now certain that he was the boyfriend of Chin Ran mentioned by my roommate. Feng Si, the heir of the top wealthy Feng family. Chin Ran looked at me with utter disdain, as if I were some filthy thing unworthy of her gaze, her contempt and disgust plain to see. I've seen this kind of look in all sorts of ways. They're all wealthy people, just like Chin Ran, and they all look down on someone like me, scraping by at the bottom. At first, I really couldn't stand it, but after enough times, I got used to it. It's just a look. What's the point of dwelling on it? In the end, the only one who ends up hurt and upset is myself. Seeing me standing timidly to the side, not even daring to breathe too loudly, Chin Ran sneered contemptuously. Feng Si, when did your taste become so poor that you'd even take a fancy to a girl who sells drinks? Her condescending tone was exactly like something out of a TV drama. She is the protagonist, and I am just an extra, unworthy of having any lines. Feng Si released my hand and abruptly pulled me into his embrace. What's wrong with being a bartender? I like her, and I think she's 1,000 times better than you. His arm around my waist was gripping so tightly that it felt like my waist was about to be crushed. Feng Si's attitude made Chin Ran completely lose her composure. She stormed over and suddenly raised her hand to slap me. My mind buzzed, and I was completely stunned by the blow. My face burned with pain, quickly swelling and turning red. People always like to pick on the weak. She didn't dare to confront Feng Si directly, so she took all her anger out on me. I glared at Chin Ran with hatred. If she dared to hit me again, would return it in full. After all, I had nothing to lose, while she had everything to protect. Just as Chin Ran was about to strike again, Feng Si pushed her hand away. Chin Ran's eyes instantly reddened, her face filled with disbelief as she stared at Feng Si. You're really protecting her like this? Seeing Chin Ran in tears, Feng Si's heart ached unbearably, and his voice softened immediately. All right, Ran, stop making a scene. Before he could finish, Chin Ran raised her hand and slapped Feng Si across the face. She lifted her chin proudly and said fiercely, Feng Si, it's over, I'm the one breaking up with you. With that, she turned and walked away. Feng Si was so angry that he watched Chin Ran's receding figure and shouted, break up then, whoever regrets it is a grandson. Chin Ran's steps clearly faltered for a moment, but she showed no intention of stopping. I had been secretly observing Feng Si. When he saw Chin Ran hesitate, his eyes noticeably lit up. I thought that if Chin Ran had just lowered her head, Feng Si would have immediately made up with her, but Qin Ran left with such finality, making Feng Si, who had been secretly hoping, feel like a complete fool. Though Feng Si was furious, his gaze never left Qin Ran's retreating figure until she disappeared through the bar's entrance. The moment Qin Ran was gone, Feng Si seemed to lose his soul. Collapsing onto the sofa, the onlookers, never ones to shy away from stirring up trouble, began to jeer and cheer. Sigh, buddy. Your ex-girlfriend was actually wrong. You have good taste. This girl really does suit you well. Yeah, this girl is much prettier than your ex, and she didn't even make a sound when she took that slap for you. Sigh, beautiful. Your face is all swollen. Want me to blow on it for you? Ha 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 ha. I can blow on it for you too. Feng Si gradually snapped back to reality upon hearing the crowd's teasing, shooting them an annoyed glare. He looked at my swollen cheek and said, I'm really sorry, let me transfer you some money for medical expenses as an apology. Although I was in desperate need of money, my appetite was big. I wanted more. I smiled at him and replied, you've already covered the medical expenses. If you really want to make it up to me, just ask for me when you come to order drinks next time. He paused for a moment, the gloom that had just clouded his brow gradually dissipating. All right. A heartbroken man is desperate to numb himself with alcohol, and it's also the perfect time to take advantage of his vulnerability. The next day, I deliberately took a day off and didn't go to the bar. That evening, as expected, I received a friend request from Feng Si. Why didn't you come to work at the bar tonight? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Yeah, my face hurts a lot, and it's very swollen. I didn't want to go. Actually, my face had stopped hurting a while ago. It was just still a bit swollen. But to make Feng Si feel guilty, I just blurted it out. I'm sorry, no need to apologize. You've already said sorry, and I've forgiven you. Will you come to work tomorrow? Of course. The next evening, he actually showed up. If his first visit to the bar was because of Qin Ran, then today he must have come for me. Tonight, I didn't bring out the most expensive wine. Instead, I chose a bottle that tasted great and wasn't too pricey. I didn't approach him to promote my wine like the first time. Instead, I sat down opposite him like a friend. You don't seem to be in a good mood. This bottle's on me. My treat. He gave me a surprised look but didn't refuse. I've always known that alcohol is a wonderful thing. It can quickly bridge the distance between people. Soon, as the bottle was nearly empty, we were already pouring our hearts out to each other. He told me the story between him and Qin Ran. They grew up together since childhood, officially got together after the college entrance exams. And it's been a full 5 years now. During that time, they broke up and got back together many times. Every breakup was initiated by Qin Ran, but in the end, it was always him who lowered his head to reconcile. He also wished Qin Ran would yield to him, lower her head just once, but she never would. I smiled and comforted him. Girls just want to be pampered by the person they like all the time. She'll understand you someday. Hearing this, he let out a heavy sigh. If only Qin Ran could be as sensible as you. After talking about his troubles, he shifted the conversation to the wine he was drinking, his favorite sport, skiing, and how he occasionally went camping with friends. To his surprise, I not only never let his words fall flat, but I could also catch every joke he threw out, and even occasionally say a thing or two that resonated with him. It was clear that at this moment, he was full of curiosity about me, a woman selling wine who actually knew so much. As the wine in our glasses was nearly gone, I began to tell him my story. On my 10th birthday, I insisted on having a birthday cake. My mother drove out to buy one for me and got into a car accident, dying on the spot. That day, I lost my mother, and I also lost the father who loved me. My father hated me, believing that I was the one who caused my mother's death. He started drinking heavily every day, and when he was drunk, he would beat me, calling me a jinx, and even asking why it wasn't me who had died back then. Seeing my father like this also made me very sad. If I hadn't insisted on wanting cake, my mother would have been fine, and our family of 3 would have been very happy. Unfortunately, there are no ifs. After I started college, my father drank less and treated me much better. Just when I thought we were getting better and better, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. To pay for my father's treatment, I started taking on all kinds of part-time jobs. Because of the many jobs I did, I gained some understanding of various industries. After Feng Si learned that I was a student at Peking University, The look in his eyes clearly changed. He then sighed, saying that Peking University had also been his dream school, but unfortunately, he didn't get in. We had a pleasant conversation, and it wasn't until the bar closed that we realized we had been talking for so long without even noticing. Later, whenever Feng Si had time, he would come to the bar to find me. Every time he came, he would ask me to open the most expensive bottle of wine, and even if he couldn't finish it, he would save it. The person he talked about the most with me was Qin Ran, and he even asked me what he should do about her. Although I had my own hidden motives, when faced with his question, I still gave the most rational answer. He must have realized that I had given it serious thought. Without a trace of casualness, there was no ambiguity between us. He saw me as a tree hole, someone he could confide in. This was also the biggest difference between me and Qin Ran. Qin Ran made him sad and upset, but when he was sad or upset, he would come to me, and I would soothe all his wounds like a gentle spring breeze and drizzle. Although I don't know if he considers me his friend, I believe he must be happy. Half a month later, Feng Si arranged to meet with me. He probably couldn't think of any other solution, which is why he came to me, looking helpless as he made an unreasonable request. I chuckled to myself. This was no unreasonable request. For me, it was nothing short of a godsend. I had no reason to refuse. A few days later, Feng Si personally came to pick me up and take me to the old Feng family residence. Today was Feng Si's birthday, and his family had organized a birthday celebration for him. The reason I was able to attend wasn't because Feng Si considered me a friend, but because of his mother. She heard that Feng Si came to break up with Qin Ran because of me, and she wanted to see who I really was. When I was chatting with Feng Si before, I learned from him that Feng's mother really disliked Qin Ran, so much so that she would do anything to break them up. The Feng family's old mansion was huge and beautiful, exuding an air of luxury everywhere. Although I hadn't seen much of the world, I knew how to put on a show. My calm and composed demeanor left no room for criticism, even earning a newfound respect from Feng Si under the watchful eyes of the crowd. I gracefully took Feng Si's arm and followed him into the dazzling, extravagant world of high society, just as he was about to lead me to meet his mother. A sharp female voice called out, "Feng Si." Surrounded by numerous socialites, Qin Ran's expression was now as dark as thunder. She quickly walked over, holding up her skirt. No matter how calm she tried to appear, her trembling voice betrayed her. "Feng Si, what do you mean by bringing her here? Do you have to embarrass me in this kind of situation?" Feng Si looked at Qin Ran, who seemed on the verge of falling apart, and his heart ached instantly, sensing that he wanted to shake off my hand and distance himself from me. I squeezed his hand tightly. On the way here, I had already given Feng Si some advice. The best way to make Qin Ran stop threatening to break up every other day in the future is to let her know that she isn't the only one for you. After I subtly reminded him, Feng Si stopped struggling. He deliberately pulled me close in an intimate embrace and looked at Qin Ran with confusion, saying, "I invited my girlfriend to celebrate my birthday with me. What does that have to do with you, Miss Qin?" Feng Si was ruthless. With just one sentence, he completely severed any connection between the two of them. Qin Ran was utterly aggrieved, her fragile appearance on the verge of collapse, which instantly pleased Feng Si. Leaning against Feng Si's chest, I smiled and played the role of peacemaker. "Don't take it to heart, Miss Qin. I can't stand anyone speaking ill of me." With just one sentence, she was excluded from the conversation between me and Feng Si. Qin Ran glared at me with burning rage, her expression so fierce it seemed she wanted to skin me alive, which stirred a faint thrill within me. Just as I was about to do something to provoke her further, she casually picked up a wine glass from the table and hurled it at me. "You wretched woman, you have no right to speak here." At this moment, she had completely lost any semblance of a well-bred lady. Having been fooled once, I naturally wouldn't fall for it a second time. The moment I saw her pick up the wine glass, I immediately hid behind Feng Si. Feng Si reacted swiftly, blocking the cup that was thrown at him, but he couldn't avoid the liquid splashed in his direction. Looking at his disheveled state, he couldn't hold back his temper. "Enough, can you stop being so unreasonable?" That one sentence instantly sealed Qin Ran's fate. The onlookers began to whisper and murmur among themselves at the sight. Qin Ran couldn't bear the pointing and whispering from the people around her, and she instantly broke down. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably, yet she still refused to lower her head. Feng Si, you'll regret this." After saying that, she covered her face and ran out. Feng Si's face turned extremely unpleasant, and his handsome white suit was completely ruined by the red wine. I felt heartbroken as I wiped away the remaining wine stains from his hands, before the banquet even began. Feng Si hurriedly went to the dressing room upstairs. I did not follow, I accepted everyone's scrutiny with grace. Then, step by step, I walked toward the center of attention, Mrs. Feng, who was my real target for coming here tonight. From the very beginning, I knew my little tricks could only hold Feng Si back for a moment. Once he figured it out, he would set aside his pride and reconcile with Qin Ran. Once they made up, there would be no place for me. Maybe Qin Ran will even take revenge on me. So before that happens, I need to make a good impression on Feng Si's mother, who strongly opposes their relationship. Although the minor commotion outside didn't disturb the people inside, after Qin Ran stained Feng Si's clothes, I noticed a lady in the inner area specifically glancing this way. I was wondering earlier who that lady was, but now, seeing her surrounded and admired by many noblewomen, I'm certain she is Feng Si's mother. Although she didn't know exactly what had just happened outside, she was certain that something had occurred, so I curved the corner of my mouth, stepped forward, and said neither humbly nor arrogantly, "Auntie, I heard from Feng Si that you wanted to see me. He originally intended to bring me to meet you, but he accidentally got his clothes dirty just now." My voice instantly drew everyone's attention, and they all began to size me up in unison. Although they didn't know the specifics of the minor commotion at the entrance earlier, they were now likely somewhat aware of it. They have already seen Feng Si's attitude towards me. Now it all depends on Feng's mother. If she accepts me, then they will naturally have to treat me with respect. Otherwise, they won't take me seriously at all. After hearing my words and connecting them with what she had just seen, Feng's mother naturally guessed who had stained her son's clothes. She frowned with displeasure. Soon, she composed herself and, with a loving expression, took my hand. "So you're Xiaowan, you're really beautiful." She immediately turned and introduced me to the women around her. "You probably don't know yet, but this is RSC's new girlfriend." Upon hearing Mrs. Feng's words, the ladies who were in the know cast a look of pity toward the woman standing alone to the side. Noticing everyone's gaze, I also looked over. Her eyes and brows were practically carved from the same mold as Qin Ran's. I thought she must be Qin Ran's mother. After everyone saw how Feng's mother treated me, their previous disdain, contempt, and scorn all vanished, replaced by flattery and sycophancy. "Tisk, such a fine girl was snatched up by your son." I was just about to ask for her name to introduce her to my own boy, bringing her to meet the parents already. "Looks like a happy event is on the horizon." Feng's mother patted my hand and said unhurriedly, "No rush. Xiaowan is still studying at Jingda University. There's plenty of time after she graduates." Mother Feng emphasized the words, Jingda University, and the perceptive women in the room immediately began showering praise. "So she's a top student from Jingda University. I could tell at a glance that this girl is smart, but I never imagined she'd be from Jingda." When Ah told me, I was just as surprised. I never expected Xiaowan to be so impressive. She didn't even take the college entrance exam and was directly admitted to Jingda University. I had indeed told Feng Si that I studied at Jingda University, but I never mentioned that I was admitted through a direct placement. I glanced at Mother Feng, realizing she had already dug up every detail about me. Although everyone was talking about me, the pressure fell on Mrs. Qin from Feng Si. I learned that Qin Ran had been spoiled by her family. She didn't like studying and had a spoiled young lady's temper. The only reason she got into university was because her family had deep pockets. In this silent war, Mrs. Feng emerged victorious, and the battle ended with Mrs. Qin excusing herself on the pretext of not feeling well. Mrs. Feng was very pleased with my performance tonight. Not only did I bring her honor, but I also allowed her to steal the spotlight. She also spared no effort in generously introducing me to all the ladies, saying I was C's girlfriend. Although I wasn't clear about the deep-seated grudge between Feng's mother and Qin's mother, that didn't stop me from riding their coattails to rise higher. Ever since attending Feng Si's birthday party and witnessing what true high society was like, my ambitions had grown. Originally, I had only wanted a fleeting romance with Feng Si, hoping to get some money from him, but now I want far more than I had planned. Know all too well that a bar, with its mix of all sorts, is no place for me. especially when I'm still so young and beautiful. Feng Si would always come to the bar and ask me to open the most expensive bottles, sometimes bringing friends along to have fun, and they would all specifically request me to open the wine. Over time, I became the top seller at the bar. When the boss found out I was leaving, he was naturally unwilling to let me go, seeing me as his god of wealth. He was afraid that once I left, those young masters would stop coming to the bar to have fun, and because of my outstanding appearance, many people come specifically to see me. To keep me, the boss not only agreed to raise my salary but was also willing to give me an extra 2 percentage points in commission from alcohol sales. The conditions offered by the boss were indeed tempting, but now I had saved enough for my father's surgery, and I had more important things to do. After depositing the surgery fee into the hospital's account, I sent a message to my father's attending physician, asking him to perform the surgery as soon as possible. My feelings towards my father are very complicated. After my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, he had no intention of seeking treatment. In fact, he was even happy about it for a long time, because he felt that by dying, he could finally see my mother again. I only found out when I accidentally saw his diagnosis report. In that moment, I was completely shattered, feeling utterly betrayed. It turns out that my father's sudden kindness towards me wasn't because he had suddenly realized his mistakes or regretted his actions. It was because he knew he was going to die, and he was afraid my mother would blame him for not taking good care of me. That's why he started being nice to me. He doesn't love me at all, but I clearly remember that he loved me when I was a child. He would hold me up high, affectionately call me baby, and take me to the amusement park on weekends. But ever since my mother left, he has become a different person, drinking heavily, irritable, and despising me. That's right, my father despises me. He thinks I am a murderer, the one who killed my own mother. The law cannot punish me. He is the judge, and he wants to punish me. He never hits me when he's sober, only when he's drunk, hitting me, cursing me, demanding to know why it wasn't me who died back then. I once doubted that I was my father's biological daughter, wondering how he could possibly be so cruel to me otherwise. But when I received the paternity test results and saw the 99.9% probability of a father-daughter relationship, I had no choice but to accept the truth. Later, after encountering all sorts of people while working part-time jobs, I suddenly began to understand my father a little. On one side was his lover, and on the other was his biological daughter. Being good to me would mean betraying his lover, so he never hit me when he was sober. I knew it was after my mother left that he became like this, and I was the one to blame. I wanted to atone for my sins too, so I couldn't allow him to leave me like this. My father's surgery was expensive, and I needed a lot of money, so I started taking on all kinds of part-time jobs. Time is never enough, sleep is never enough, yet money never seems to accumulate. Just as I was on the verge of despair, Feng Si appeared. I wanted a lot of money, and he happened to be able to give it to me, but he should never have used me. It was he who fueled my ambition. After witnessing what true high society is like, I could never go back. I no longer wanted to wake up every day just to earn money for the sake of earning money. I also wanted to firmly grasp my own destiny, just like those in high society, and even control the fate of others. So I must firmly grasp Feng Si as my ladder to the clouds, becoming a part of the Feng family. After Qin Ran and Feng Si parted on bad terms at the birthday party, the two began to compete against each other again. Qin Ran has been interacting with her senior quite frequently lately, so much so that everyone has started speculating that she is already dating him. It's no wonder netizens are overthinking, because all the recent pictures and captions Qin Ran has updated on her social media are related to her senior. Naturally, Feng Si was not one to be outdone, and he began to frequently seek me out, asking me to accompany him to various places. The online speculation was quickly confirmed by Feng Si. Qin Ran and Feng Si had broken up, and after their split, each had found a new partner. The two engaged in a subtle rivalry, which ultimately ended with Qin Ran and her senior going abroad together to study. Upon learning this news, Feng Si rushed to the airport, but by the time he arrived, the plane Qin Ran was on had already taken off. He called and asked me to come to his apartment to drink with him. His eyes were terribly red, and the tip of his nose was still red. It was clear he had been secretly crying. He couldn't accept the fact that Qin Ran was going abroad to study with the senior, and he kept sending messages and making calls to Qin Ran. but never received any response. I knew that what Feng Si disliked the most was Qin Ran's contact with the senior, as the senior was the frequent trigger for their arguments. But now, Qin Ran had gone abroad to study with the senior, which was undoubtedly a betrayal in Feng Si's eyes. Finally, Feng Si angrily threw his phone directly into a wine glass filled with liquor. He grabbed the wine bottle and gulped it down, the liquor spilling everywhere, staining his white shirt red. When he couldn't control his emotions and began sobbing, I pulled him into my arms and comforted him, saying, "Feng Si, cry, cry, let it out if you're hurting, it's okay," like a wounded puppy. He looked at me dazedly after crying himself to exhaustion. I gently wiped away his tears with my fingers, cupped his face, and looking into his eyes, told him, "I will always be by your side." An ambiguous atmosphere unknowingly filled the entire room. After staring into my eyes for a long time without flinching, Feng Si suddenly grabbed the back of my head. I pushed him away when he was driven by lust, but a man consumed by desire could not surrender so quickly. He took me despite my objections. The next day, timing it just right, I picked up the birth control pills that the delivery rider had just brought and took them as soon as Feng Si woke up. Feng Si was stunned for a long moment before he snapped out of it, guiltily saying the words, "I'm sorry." To me, I didn't say a word. After taking the birth control pills, I left. He sent me many messages, but I didn't reply to any of them. He also transferred money to me many times, each time a large sum, and I restrained myself for a long time before resisting the urge to accept it. It was during the Qingming festival, and I returned to my hometown to visit my mother. I didn't reply to Feng Si's messages, but I kept updating my social media posts every now and then. Everyone thought I had gone through a breakup and had returned to my hometown to heal. On the day I went back, I deliberately posted another moment on social media, saying I was coming back. Sure enough, as soon as I got out of the taxi, I saw Feng Si downstairs. I was stunned for a moment, and after snapping out of it, I grabbed my suitcase and ran. Seeing this, Feng Si swiftly chased after me and stopped me. "Lin Wan, don't avoid me anymore, let's talk." I was overjoyed inside, but I didn't show it on my face, nodding vaguely instead. "There aren't any good places downstairs," so after looking around, I ended up going into a milk tea shop. He ordered me a jasmine milk tea with 70% sugar, and I vaguely remember that this is the flavor Qin Ran likes. Under his gaze, I took a sip. It was cloyingly sweet. Seeing my expression, he froze for a moment and asked nervously, "Don't you like it?" I thought all girls liked sweet drinks. It was too sweet, with a cheap artificial flavor. Listening to Feng Si's evasive words and his constant attempts to steer the conversation elsewhere, I suddenly found it rather laughable. "You've already done it, so why are you suddenly too embarrassed to talk about it?" After enduring a pile of nonsense, he finally got to the point. "Lin Wan, I was too impulsive that night, and I'm sorry for what I did, but rest assured, I will take responsibility for you." I took a moment to gather my emotions before speaking slowly. "How are you going to take responsibility for me?" "You know what, that was my first time. I wanted to give it to the person who loves me the most, but you don't love me, yet you took my first time." My eyes instantly welled up with tears, and I couldn't stop them from falling. It was the first time I had ever cried in front of him. Seeing me cry, he fumbled nervously to hand me tissues to wipe my tears, then pulled a small square box from his pocket and knelt before me. "Lin Wan, marry me. I will take responsibility for you." The diamond ring was large and beautiful, even more so than what I had seen on television. While I was still in a daze, Feng Si slipped it onto my finger. Though it was a bit loose, I didn't mind, nor did I care who the ring was originally meant for. Feng Si said, "I can give you everything except love." Suddenly, I felt that we were a perfect match, because aside from love, I wanted everything else. I thought marrying into a wealthy family would be incredibly difficult, and I had prepared myself for a life-or-death struggle. To my surprise, it turned out to be much easier than I had imagined. Thanks to Feng Si's insistence, his father and mother accepted me. It wasn't until I truly became a part of the Feng family that I realized how smoothly I had managed to marry into it. All thanks to the cautionary tale of Qin Ran. The Qin and Feng families were originally neighbors, which is why Qin Ran and Feng Si had known each other since childhood. But later, a major mistake in decision-making by Feng's father led to a break in the group's capital chain. which was undoubtedly fatal for such a large conglomerate. He tried to keep the news under wraps and sought help from Mr. Chin to resolve the crisis, but instead of assisting, Mr. Chin leaked the information. In no time, major companies were eyeing the phone group, eager to take advantage of its decline to grab a piece of the pie or at least get a taste. At that time, the phone group was teetering on the brink of collapse, and Mr. and Mrs. Phone were desperately pleading with anyone who might lend them a hand, but the Chin group didn't help. They simply didn't dare to, fearing retaliation. In the end, it was Feng's father who risked the entire family's fortune and the group's full resources to save the teetering Fengxi group from collapse. From then on, the Feng and Qin families became sworn enemies. Yet Feng Si was hopelessly in love with the Qin family's daughter. No matter how much his parents threatened or tempted him, it was all in vain. Therefore, when Feng Si told his parents he wanted to marry me, they agreed without much objection. Before getting the marriage certificate, they had me sign a thick prenuptial agreement. I signed it without even looking, which actually made them think more highly of me and lowered their guard a bit. To make it up to me, Feng's mother held a grand wedding for me and Feng Si. Our wedding was held on an island purchased by the Feng family, where I wore an expensive wedding dress and married Feng Si. After marrying into a wealthy family, I never stopped striving. I knew there was a prenuptial agreement in place, and if I didn't work hard and prove myself, if Feng Si ever grew tired of me or fell for someone else, I would end up with nothing. So, I will use the resources available to me now to continuously improve. Turning all resources into my own wealth, I enrolled in various business school courses and all kinds of self-improvement classes, all with the aim of completely transforming myself and becoming my own resource. Before the marriage, Feng Si had clearly stated that he couldn't give me love, but I never expected him to fall in love with my body. He is truly conflicted. He loves Qin Ran, yet he can still marry me and share a bed with me. I know all too well that climbing upward always demands a price, but the child is innocent, so every time after I openly take birth control pills, Feng Si mistakenly thought I was taking birth control pills to avoid causing him trouble later on. He feels guilty towards me and can only make up for it with money, generously bidding on expensive jewelry to give me, and occasionally transferring money for me to buy things I like. I accept everything that comes my way without refusal, using the money from Feng Si and the resources provided by the Feng family. I began my own path to making money. Leveraging the Feng family's reputation, I quickly established a foothold in the entertainment and catering industries. More than half of the entertainment industry came to my restaurant to show their support and check in, and the star effect instantly attracted countless fans. To ensure the quality of the restaurant, I adopted a hunger marketing strategy, which once again drew a wave of attention to my establishment. Thanks to the restaurant, I made a fortune. After tasting the sweetness of success, I immediately began exploring investments in other fields. I knew deep down that Feng Si and I couldn't be together forever. If one day Qin Ran returned and they rekindled their old flame, I hoped I would have the courage to say no to this broken marriage. I saw Qin Ran again 3 years later. We crossed paths in the jewelry store under my name. She immediately asked for the store's treasure. Even though the staff said it was not for sale, she still insisted on making things difficult for the workers, saying, "If it's not for sale, why display it? If it's displayed, it can be sold." She was just as unreasonable and domineering as she had been 5 years ago, but still beautiful, wearing sky-high heels and a fitted red dress. If I remember correctly, the clothes she was wearing were from a brand I invested in, and she was wearing last year's style, not the latest one. Seeing that the new waitress was about to be brought to tears by her, I quickly stepped forward to help her out. "Miss Qin, long time no see." When Qin Ran saw it was me, she thought I worked here and said arrogantly, "TSK, isn't this the one who sold drinks at the bar 5 years ago? How come you're selling jewelry now?" 5 years later, it seems a pheasant can fly onto a branch but still can't become a real phoenix. Her tone was as condescending and annoying as ever. She kept staring at me, and I knew exactly what she wanted to see, but I refused to give her the satisfaction. I am no longer the wine-selling girl from 5 years ago who could only swallow her anger and take the slaps. Faced with her provocation, I directly poured the water glass I had just taken from the waiter over her. She let out an "ah" and covered her face, glaring at me. "You lowly wretch, how dare you splash me?" Her sharp voice instantly drew the attention of many people. The mall manager quickly dispersed the onlookers upon realizing I was the one causing the disturbance. Miss Chin, there are surveillance cameras everywhere. Why make things difficult for a worker? I pushed the ill-fitting ring further onto my finger. Chin Ran stared at the diamond ring on my hand, her pupils widening in shock. How did this ring end up with you? I raised an eyebrow. If it's not in the hands of me, the young mistress of the Feng family, then should it be in yours? Chin Ran's chest heaved violently, clearly quite angered. I had no time to deal with her. I still had other shops to inspect. Just as I was about to leave, Chin Ran raised her hand. Just like 5 years ago, she wanted to hit me again. Taking advantage of the moment she raised her hand, I slapped her directly. Doesn't she love slapping people? Today, I'll let her taste it herself. With a smack, she stared at me in shock. You dare hit me? Chin Ran gritted her teeth and said. I smiled and leaned in closer. Miss Chin, you're not the same Miss Chin from 5 years ago, and I'm not the same girl selling wine anymore. Why wouldn't I dare to slap your face? The Chin family's business may have flourished with many branches, but it couldn't keep up with the pace of the times, stubbornly clinging to old ways, unwilling to change or innovate. The inevitable outcome is being left behind by the era. The Chin family is no longer what it once was, and I'm no longer the poor student who could be pushed around. Besides, with the title of the young mistress of the Feng family now, what's wrong with slapping a fallen heiress? To my surprise, Feng Si was called away by Chin Ran with just one phone call that very night. At the time, Feng Si was washing up when his phone, left on the table, started ringing. Thinking it was work-related, I picked up the phone and was about to bring it to him, only to find out it was actually Chin Ran calling. Afraid that Chin Ran might hang up, I quickly pretended not to know who it was and handed him the phone, saying, your phone is ringing. Seeing the caller ID, Feng Si was stunned for a moment. He didn't answer right away but instead glanced at me. Only after noticing I had no reaction did he pick up the call. Not long after, he came out of the bathroom and headed straight to the walk-in closet. It was half an hour before he emerged from there. He said with slight unease, there's an unexpected international meeting at the company. I won't be coming back tonight. Dressing up like a peacock spreading its feathers for a meeting, I didn't call him out on it, just replied perfunctorily, drive carefully, stay safe. Chin Ran truly is as impatient as ever. If she wants to get back at me and make me unhappy, it seems she has no other way besides Feng Si. This phone call came a bit earlier than expected. I picked up my phone and called my assistant, telling her to find me a private investigator right away. I need to gather evidence of Feng Si's infidelity. In the following days, Feng Si left early and returned late, dressing up flamboyantly every day. I'll just watch without saying a word, and to give them an opportunity, I even took a private jet abroad to attend an exhibition. I spent over half a month abroad before returning, and Chin Ran certainly didn't disappoint me. According to the private investigator's report, during the more than half a month I was away, Feng Si and Chin Ran moved in together directly. The two of them frequently appeared together at various events, and Feng Si even skipped work for several days in a row for Chin Ran. Chin Ran's social media feed, which had been silent for 5 years, has started buzzing with activity again. For over half a month, she's been posting 3 updates a day, each with different photos and captions, even including intimate shots of them embracing and kissing in bed. It's even more explosive than the photos the private investigator sent me. She's making a grand, public declaration of war against me, but she doesn't realize I've been waiting for this day for a long time. The news of their rekindled romance spread instantly through the circle, with many waiting to see me become a laughingstock. Some who loved stirring up trouble even anonymously sent me their intimate photos. I didn't even bother to open them, because I had already seen them long ago. Just as everyone thought I would retaliate, I remained calm and composed, as if nothing had happened at all. As time went on, Chin Ran couldn't hold back any longer. She came to me, asking me to divorce Feng Si, claiming that Feng Si loved her, not me. She said I was just a third party who took advantage of the situation, while she was the true young mistress of the Feng family. In Feng Si's heart, faced with the confession from his first love, Feng Si wavered, but only for a moment. He was well aware that the Feng family disliked Chin Ran and knew that everyone in the Feng household was quite satisfied with me. So, even though I wasn't the woman Feng Si loved most, I was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate to be the young mistress of the Fong family. Moreover, Qin Ran had gone abroad to study with her senior back then, which had always been a sore point for Fong Si. How could the esteemed young master of the Fong family lose out to a pretty boy? A month later, Qin Ran came to me with a pregnancy test report, looking down her nose as she declared, "I'm pregnant with Fong Si's child." I looked at the company's financial statements without even lifting my head, and then, she froze for a moment, angered by my indifferent attitude. "Fong Si doesn't love you at all. Why are you still clinging to him?" I raised my eyes to look at her. "He doesn't love me, so he loves you, Miss Qin. Please get this straight. I am his rightful wife, and at best, you're just a mistress right now, and also, I'm not clinging to him. If you want the position of the young mistress of the Fong family, then have him come to me for a divorce." She still loves to pick on the easy target, but how could I let her push me around so easily now? She was left speechless by my retort and could only feign composure, saying, "I advise you to get a divorce sooner rather than later. Don't wait until you're kicked out of the Fong family. I'm carrying the Fong family's eldest grandson." I put away the report, not wanting to waste any more time on her. "If you want to have the child, that's your right. As for whether I'll be kicked out of the Fong family, that's not for you to decide." I had just gotten into the car when Fong Si's call came through. He said guiltily, "Lin Wan, I'm sorry, I took precautions, but I don't know how she ended up pregnant." I hung up before he could finish. It was really disgusting. The matter caused quite a stir and eventually reached the ears of the Fong family elders. To keep me from leaving, Feng's mother gave me the entertainment company she owned. We both tacitly avoided mentioning the name Fong Si and silently signed the transfer agreement. The advantage of dealing with smart people is that there's no need for many words. Everything is understood without being said. With the entertainment company in Feng's mother's hands, I essentially held the lifeline of the entertainment industry, making it much easier to do whatever I wanted. Leveraging the Fong family's reputation in the industry, I followed the trend and created an internet celebrity incubation base. I immediately hired people to find the most influential internet celebrities and sign them to the company, creating personalized IPs tailored to each of them. As soon as the news broke, major influencers rushed to reach out, afraid they might be a step behind others. The influencer incubation base I built quickly sparked a frenzy online, with major media outlets vying for the chance to interview me. I welcomed them all, even bringing Fong Si along to attend. Fong Si had no reason to refuse, as it was a great opportunity to promote the Fong group, so we quickly became the model couple online, and there were even people shipping us as a CP. The more affectionate Fong Si and I appeared online, the more restless Qin Ran became. She finally couldn't hold back any longer and exposed her pregnancy test report online, along with several intimate photos of her and Fong Si. In an instant, Fong Si became the scumbag everyone online was calling out, while Qin Ran turned into the mistress everyone despised. The Fong group has suffered an unprecedented blow. The Fong family kept calling me as soon as trouble hit, but I have no intention of dealing with them right now. I immediately registered a new account and posted my first message, getting ready to divorce. As soon as the news broke, I gained 1 million followers overnight, and the influencers under my companies names saw their following skyrocket. Everyone was waiting for the next update. It's time for this game to end. I sent all the photos of Fong Si's infidelity, collected by the private detective, to the legal team at the top law firm. For this lawsuit, I specifically invested in a law firm, watching it grow day by day until it became a rising star in the legal world. I entrusted everything entirely to my attorney, and during this time, I never once met with Fong Si. Fong Si was furious at Qin Ran's thoughtless exposure. He couldn't be bothered to deal with her, but to his surprise, Qin Ran climbed onto the roof of the Fong group building and started a live stream, threatening that if Fong Si didn't give her and the child in her womb an explanation, she would jump immediately. The last time I saw Fong Si was a week later at the Civil Affairs Bureau. We were there to get our divorce certificate. After a week apart, he looked much more weathered and utterly exhausted. "Lin Wan, if I said I regret it, would you forgive me?" I laughed in anger. In his eyes, am I some kind of cheap person? I have long been reborn, no longer that wine-selling girl who needed to please others. I own multiple properties, 3 companies, and my investments across various industries are thriving. The cash in my bank card is enough to last several lifetimes. not to mention the marital assets. I never imagined that in just 5 short years, I would actually manage to squeeze my way into high society. Becoming my own resource, of course, even though I still can't compare to the Fong family now. I no longer have to put up with anyone's attitude. I have the power to say no to anything. It won't. For a moment, he looked dazed, as if he hadn't expected me to refuse him. He will never know that everything between us was carefully orchestrated by me. In this game, all I ever wanted was money and power. And now I have achieved both. During my routine checkup, I accidentally caught a glimpse of Fong Si. Bloodied and mangled, being wheeled into the morgue. I thought I had seen wrong, until a news alert popped up on my phone. The heir of the Fong family was stabbed over a dozen times in the street by his former sweetheart, who then slit her own throat as a final act. Who would have thought that two people who once loved each other would end up killing one another? Love truly drives people to madness. I quickly opened the stock market app to check the trend of Fong Group stocks, only to see a sea of green. I immediately contacted my secretary and asked him to prepare an acquisition plan for Fong Group overnight. The business world is like a battlefield, where things can change in the blink of an eye. Everyone usually lies low, but once there's a chance to profit, they bare their ferocious fangs. The Fong Group had escaped the fate of being carved up decades ago, but now it lacked the ability to flee once more. For the commander had fallen and the army's morale had crumbled. I seized the moment and took a big bite. Indeed, meat is best enjoyed in large mouthfuls. I have finally risen above others, becoming the master of my own destiny. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.